suspect that there's more people here who were going to talk to the Board of Finance proposed budget, and I think the Conservation Commission ordinance one will be rather quick. So if there's anybody here, one or two people, I'm guessing, if there's anybody here who wants to talk about the Conservation Commission ordinance, we're going to do that one first, okay? So maybe to the town manager, is there any introduction on the Conservation Commission ordinance that you'd like to tee up?
Absolutely. This was the brainchild of Mr. Guerrero, who's on the Conservation Commission. He worked with Mr. Palmeri, Councilman Palmeri. It's really more of a housekeeping ordinance change. There's no substantive changes to it whatsoever. It just adds a sentence to codify the Connecticut General Statute, which gives the Conservation Commission authority under the state laws. Prior to this, it was understood but ambiguous, so this just does a good job of cleaning up our ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Chris, did you want to add anything before we go on?
No, I think the town manager covered it. It's just referencing the Connecticut General Statute, which is Title 7, Chapter 97, Section 7-131A. So it just puts that language in our town ordinance, and I think it clarifies everything.
Great. Thank you, Chris, and thanks to Mr. Guarino for raising the issue and finding it. Okay, so before we, well, is there anybody who wants to come up and speak in favor or against this ordinance? This was presented at the last town council meeting, the details, and now we've scheduled the public hearing for today. Anybody here interested in speaking about the Conservation Commission ordinance during the public hearing? I'm glad I did this one first. If there was one person, I would be even more happier. Okay. Okay, so one last call. Anybody here for the public hearing for item 2, Conservation Commission ordinance? Okay, hearing none. Thanks everybody for letting me switch those. We are now going to go, you're not here for the Conservation Commission ordinance, right? Okay. We are now moving on to the Board of Finance proposed budget, fiscal year 2025-26. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be a little bit of a process tonight. The first part of the process, which is traditional for the town council meeting, this public hearing, is to allow the chairs of the Board of Finance and the Board of Education to first come up and talk to us a little bit about the journey that has been taken in the budget process, from department heads submitting to the town managers and the superintendents submitting their budgets, then the boards having a look at them, and then finally the Board of Finance. So we're going to have Chairman John Leary from the Board of Finance walk us through the process, a little bit of some data, maybe some of the mindsets as to what drove some of the decision-making process, and then we will follow that with the Board of Education Chairwoman, Colleen Clark. In between each one, we'll have an opportunity for the council members on the dais. If there's any questions for either of the chairs, we'll stop after each chairperson and allow the council to have some questions. And then at the end, we'll open it up to the general public, okay? Chairman Leary.
Thank you. John Leary,
And I'm sorry, just beforehand, because I know last time we went quite a long time with question and answer in the middle of your presentation, Chairman Leary, last year. So this year, what I'd like to do is afford you the opportunity for those council members who may have a question. Maybe if you can please write your question down, note what page it is that it's on. Let's allow the chairman to go through the entire presentation so he can get through it all. He's promised me only 10 minutes, so he's on the clock. And then we'll have an opportunity to go back and ask some questions. Thank you.
And the chair of the Board of Ed will come after it.
After
because
you.
there's Board of Ed built in here.
After your questions.
And then we'll take any question from
Okay.
anybody and let everybody speak.
So would you prefer the both of you to speak first? Both chairs?
Well,
and
I'll
then
go completely through, and she'll go through her presentation, then we'll both stand here for any questions.
Is that okay with the council? Okay, let's do that. We'll sit and listen through both of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll go through it with expeditiously. So we're here to talk about the 2025-2026 budget. That begins on July 1st, 2025. Our fiscal year is a June 30th year end. The Board of Finance recommended budget. So this is the budget the Board of Finance worked on and now recommends. To go off script a little bit, as Chair Chaplinsky said, it's a process where in the Board of Education, all the programs report up to the schools, central office reports in, superintendent gets a budget, that budget goes to the Board of Ed. It keeps crawling up. And the same with general government. It goes from department heads up to the town manager. Some departments don't report to the town manager, so it goes to the commissions like Police and Fire Commission, and it kind of rolls up. Then it lands on Board of Finance, and we have several workshops, discussions, public hearings, lots of meetings, and we come up with a recommendation to town council. And again, it's a recommendation. Town council could then, based upon what's in the language in the charter, town council could then take the recommendation and cut further or restore with a 2/3 vote. This particular recommendation comes with a 4.26% tax increase, a mill rate going from 31.44 to 32.78. The impact on a $300,000 appraised property, which would be assessed at 70% to 10, the current taxes would be 6,602, the proposed would be 6,884, $282,000 increase. If you had a $600,000 property, you can just extrapolate. Board of Ed operational spending. Why do we call it operational spending? Because it's for their operations, doesn't include buildings and major capital. It's the operating budget. It went up $5.9 million in this recommendation, or 5.1%. General government spending is up $1.4 million, or 2.7%. Grand list growth, it decreased this year. This is the first year in a long time we saw a decrease. So the grand list growth will not generate any new tax because we don't have any grand list growth. Why? Why is because automobiles, which appreciated, their value increased during the pandemic, and afterwards we had supply chain issues, they couldn't get parts. For a number of reasons, used vehicles went up in value, and it pushed the grand list up. Now those vehicles kind of corrected, and they started to depreciate more heavily, so the grand list went down, and we also didn't have any of our major building in town that would, usually commercial building, that would drive the grand list up. When we have grand list growth, we tax the growth at the current mill rate, and that's newfound money. That's assets that were not here last year that now we can tax. We didn't have any. And I will keep it to 10 minutes, so I gotta go a little faster, stay on topic. Just to let you know, the Board of Finance does look at the big picture, looks at the federal government at macro level, it looks at the state a little bit, and it tries to understand what's going on. It's not so insular that it just looks at the town. So the federal government, at a high level, what are we seeing? We're seeing real gross domestic product, 2.3% in 2024, 1.9 in 2024 from the Congressional, 25 from the Congressional Budget Office. GDP is the value of goods and services made in the USA, and that's an indicator of growth in the US economy. We're seeing a cooling labor demand, a softening 4.1%, that's predicted by year end. We have very cautious consumers. What that means is consumers are exercising more scrutiny on their spending. Income growth is softening, costs are elevated, and interest rates are high. When those conditions happen, people have less disposable income, and they're very much more discerning about what they spend. There are people in town who are concerned about, do I buy what groceries I buy, how many times I may go out to eat versus last year. It's causing a concern because they have a limited amount of money and the stuff that they do went up. Credit card debt is at an all-time high, 1.1 trillion, up 4.4%. Just as a reference point, it was 870 billion in 2018. What does that mean? It means that people are likely buying their necessities, but they're charging them on the credit card and not paying them down. We're also seeing defaulting loans, defaulting student loans, defaulting credit card obligations. So it's a little bit of a warning sign. Federal easing, the federal funds rate is at 4.33%. It's predicted to fall, but again, it may not. If there's any hint that we may be heading in an inflationary state, the way in which you put brakes on inflation is to raise interest rates, slow growth. If that happens, we won't see a decrease in the federal funds rate. What are the risks? Downside, reignited inflation concerns, unemployment, geopolitical tensions, the Ukraine, Gaza, public debt levels going up. The federal government has a $1 trillion budget deficit. It also has 36 trillion of debt. If you look at it, right now, the federal government has faced almost the exact cost to fund the military is the same number to service the debt. Those are some concerns. And federal funding to states and municipalities, a lot of people are saying, well, how does all this DOGE and other things affect us? Southington gets $85,000 in Title II grants, and they get $1.6 million from IDEA, individuals with disabilities. So there's no risk there. I mean, no risk. There's no imminent risk. We've not been alerted to any, but it is something we're keeping our eye on. Sorry, I went a little long on that slide. Connecticut state government, modest growth predicted in 2025, stable employment, strong housing market. The credit rating was upgraded from stable to positive in May. Connecticut has among the worst funded retirement healthcare obligations in the country. That's a little time bomb. We have 33 billion, or 64% of pensions are underfunded. Although the state has made great strides in dumping some money in there, there's still a lot of cookies missing from the cookie jar. Connecticut assets can only fund 5% of its obligations, and Connecticut has the highest debt per capita of all 50 states. So, little something there. It's not, the state has its challenges, to point it out. Here in town, something changed. The change was to the way in which vehicles are taxed. The state decided they would have a mill rate cap at 32.46 mils for vehicles, and then there's a couple ways in which you could value the vehicles. It all changed. We used to use the NADA, the National Automotive Dealers Association guide, to value them. Now it's going to dealer MSRP and depreciate it over that number. We could argue it, but it is what it is. And you depreciate over 20 years, so year one is 85%, then a 5% reduction every year until the car is over 20 years old, and it's valued at $500. In any case, this changes the rate at which the cars are taxed. Why? Because in some of the high mill rate towns, a Waterbury, a Bridgeport, a New London, a New Haven, taxes are so high that if the same person bought a new car here in Southington, they bought a new car in New Haven, they would pay vastly different taxes. So the state said, why don't we even the mill rate, let everybody pay a mill rate on vehicles, and then they're gonna take from some municipalities and give to others and level things out. But high level, that's the issue. Southington, some statistics: 36 square miles, population 43,700, employees 1,428, with 1,165 of them in the Board of Ed, 6161 students in the schools. Our credit rating is Standard & Poor's AA+, Moody's AA2, right where we want to be. Great credit rating. Our reserves, our undesignated fund balance is at 33 million. That's what we call the rainy day fund. It's 17.8%, and policy calls for 11%. So we have the rainy day fund, we even have excess in there. Our grand list is 4.7 billion, and our annual budget that we're here tonight to talk about is 188.4 million. Budget overview. Total annual spending in the budget is 188 million. Educational operations make up 122 of that. General government, 53 million. Debt service, 13 million. Animal control, 300,000. The sewer operations, 6.8 million. And year one of the 5-year capital plan, we have a 5-year capital plan. We plan to fund year one, 89 million, but hold on, we'll talk about the 89 million. The mill rate in this budget takes us from 31.44 to 32.78, up 1.34 mils, or 4.26%. The grand list decreased in value. We talked about that. When we look at revenue, the town gets revenue, the town has expenses, and we have a balanced budget. Federal government has a $1.7 trillion deficit. We have a balanced budget. Revenue, 188 million. Property tax contributes 155 of that. Where does the rest come from? State grants for education, namely educational cost sharing, 21 million. State grants to the town, there are what they call TAR grants, is one of the big ones in there. 1.8 million. Investment income, because we have the excess rainy day fund plus the rainy day fund, 4.3 million we get in interest, and interest rates are high. Federal grants, we get none. I left a zero in there because we used to get the SAFER grant for the firefighters. It was a 3-year deal, it ran out, we get nothing. now by design, by contract. The fund balance utilized, we will take 1.5 million from our excess rainy day fund, we'll use it this year. And town service fees, we get 4.9 million, town clerk fees and other billings we do. That's our revenue of 188. Now let's talk about our expenses. On the general government expenses, public safety, police and fire, 17 million, fringe benefits for everybody, 14 million, public works, 7 million, general government, 6, capital expenditures that are cash funded, 2.7 million, library, 1.6 million, planning and development, 1.4 million, the contingency, we have 1.3 million in there, health and human services, 1.9 million, recreation, 400,000. And it goes on. Capital expenditures, 88 million. We said a little while ago, we'll break it down for you. Cash funded is 2 million. So we're gonna do some sidewalk replacements, information technology, computer stuff, 325,000. A highway dump truck, it gets a new dump truck and a plow for 312,000. Townwide roofs, the focus is on the Historical Society building near the library, needs a roof. High school boilers, 2 of them. Highway needs a mini excavator. The fire department needs a generator, Station 3, River Street. Paving, Station 3 also needs to be paved for 100,000. The fire department needs a new vehicle, that's 1 vehicle. And an asphalt hot box. A hot box is it's a thing that goes on the back of the truck and it keeps the asphalt warm so they could use it longer and farther, it doesn't get cold on them. And the highway, they need a highway vehicle. Those are all cash funded. And then we get into some other stuff. We have road work. We're gonna use the 2026 money to add in. We're doing a lot of work. There's a referendum question at the polling location last year or the year before that said, hey, do you wanna have X amount of money for road work? We do that. In addition, we get the TAR grants. In addition, we do our own. There's gonna be a lot of emphasis on paving and patching and road maintenance and bridges. Bridges cost a lot. Cash funded by transfers, 691,000. That's money that isn't spent. That's going to get repositioned for other things. We're going to. Oh, this is different. This is the private duty fund at the police station. We're going to increase our support of that flock camera network. We're going to upgrade the police radio system. That's a constant funding for the radio system, and the police body cameras. We're going to use the excess rainy day fund, 1.5 million, to tackle some of the Board of Ed athletic facilities that failed in referendum, but there's still need. The referendum said no, but the need is there, so we have to fix little things as we go. What's grant funded? 3.9 million, the Newell Street Bridge, the LoCIP, that's the local capital improvement money, 280 in road aid. We have no more ARPA funds. We've applied them all to capital and we're done. Bond funded $80 million. We put that in there. That's right now the 3-school solution, the Daranowski, Flanders, Kelly solution. Even though the solution isn't totally vetted out, we're including it in there and preparing for it. But it's bond funded. It doesn't, in this very moment, affect the budget. It will when we pay it back. Couple things on staffing, just so everyone can see. The Board of Education, and we'll say right out, they don't like when you just take everybody and lump them together and call it a full-time equivalent. But at 1165 to 1166, they're up 1. General government has 263 employees, going to 260 in this recommendation, down 3. Board of Ed came in with a little bit more elaborate slide. The point they want to make, and they'll make it themselves, is that with special ed, sometimes the cases they get, the complexity of the cases warrant bringing on paraprofessionals and support people based upon the student. So if we don't have the student, we don't have the extra people, but you get the student, you have to get the extra people to handle them. So it's not always we're just adding staff, we're adding staff for a particular reason. And what they like to show is regular education, where they are with regular ed, and special ed is the one that's a little variable on them. So they'll talk about that. Board of Ed budget bridge, just to let you know, some people say, well, how do you get from the current budget of 116 for Board of Ed to 123.6? What happened? What changed 1 year over the next year? It's the same schools, same thing, same educational delivery. much higher cost. What happened? Well, so you started out, this current year, the Board of Ed spending is 116 million. And the existing salaries went up 3.4 million. Those are union contracts. And then the people who are not in the union get the salary increase of the union closest to them. So 3.4 million there. Health insurance up 2.8 million. Busing went up another 700,000. If you recall, last year it went up an even million. So over the last 2 years, the same buses driving the people to the same places went up 1.7 million. There's a story behind it, but it is what it is. Technology, 400,000, new personnel, 200,000, utilities, 100,000, and then there's some MERS, municipal employee retirement, some supplies and services, 300,000, and there's a decrease in out-of-state tuition going the other way of 300,000. So the 116 million that it cost us today to operate our schools is gonna cost us 123.6 next year. What you don't see in here is there's no new programming. They like to call it a level services budget. What that means is they're gonna do the same thing they did last year, and it's just gonna cost this much more because stuff became more expensive. So superintendent proposed budget was 123. Board of Ed shook it out in multiple meetings. They affirmed it and said, we're not going to cut it any lower. We're gonna stay with the same number. Then they sent it to us. We did 3 things with it. We removed capital items because we could fund those separately, so they will get funded. They just won't get funded here. We'll take care of it separately next month or the month after, so no impact on operations. We reduced the self-insurance contribution. When looking at self-insurance, we are self-insured, which means somebody gets hurt or sick, we pay. And we looked at the run rate of that. We could get into it, but we looked at the run rate, we looked at the reserves. Having a good look at it, we said we could reduce the self-insurance contribution. That means the employees will pay less and the town will pay less. The Board of Ed and the town side will pay less and therefore reduce the burden on the budget. And then we made a non-specific general reduction of 500,000. So instead of the 123.6, we're reducing 500,000 off of that, and they'll only get 121 million, 122 million. General fund budget bridge expenses, town manager proposed, same kind of bridge. Right now, here we are at 190 million. We talked about Board of Ed already. We're reducing Board of Ed by 1.717. Remember, 2 of those are just structural. We're gonna pay for the capital. We're going to reduce the amount in which they pay for health insurance, and the non-specific reduction of 500,000, that's real. General government, 897,000, reduced self-insurance 417, reduced the contingency 200,000, some staffing reductions 209, the Barnes and Library 120, finance tax collection, director revenue 89, building maintenance and a decontamination washing machine 71,000. That makes our recommended budget 188. And coming down on the revenue side, town manager proposed 190. We reduced property tax by 3.3 million. We increased investment revenue 350,000, increased current service fees, clerk fees, fire service, the fire department charges when they go on the highway. They charge the state, so we increased that 200,000, increased revenue for license permits and fees 100,000. So we're recommending 188,352, again, a balanced budget. Forward-looking projects, the 3-school solution is actually 245 million. That was just a piece of it that was in the budget, the 80 million. High school athletic fields, like we said before, even though it failed in referendum, we're not gonna do the whole 16.9 million, but nothing isn't the right answer. So there is need there and we'll have to poke away at it. There are school roof issues, and coming up, forward-looking, the high school renovation. The high school's getting older, and we have some more bridges, highway and road bridges. Couple little slides at the end for the record, just to show what's in the charter and what our roles are. I'll have Colleen Clark, the chair of the Board of Education, come up and speak, and then we'll both stand here and take any questions anybody has. I did run through it quick because I wanted to honor your 10 minutes. I hope you were counting.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chairman Leary. Chairwoman Clark, thank you for coming.
Thank you. I won't take 10 minutes, because you covered most of everything. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. In looking at all the people here, I am once again reminded of the challenges that we are all faced during the budget process here in Southington, with many different groups vying for a finite amount of dollars. The job of the Board of Education is to advocate for the needs of all the students in our public schools and to continue to deliver the high-quality education our residents expect. The Board of Finance job, and John, you do that very well, is to evaluate our submitted budget and decide the town's overall financial capacity to fund the requested services. And you, the town council, determine the final budget allocation. When we all work together through this process, we ensure that we are delivering the best services we can for the citizens of Southington, just as we were all elected to do. While I know many of you attended our board meetings and our budget workshops, I am here with Superintendent Medancy, Jen Mellett, Frank Pepe, Kyle Fickle, to answer any questions that you may have regarding our budget, either tonight or you can reach out to any of us in the future, and we'll be happy to answer anything that you may have. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Clark, and thank you to all the staff members and supporting team members who are here in the event that we have some questions. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done. I know that it's not an easy task to build these from the bottom up, but we appreciate all of the work that you've put into this. Okay, so why don't we open it up, Mr. Dietzich? Yep.
Thank you, Chair Chaplinsky. John, I guess first for you, thank you for your presentation. My first question, do you think there's anything that could have been done either on your board in years past to prevent a 4.26% tax increase? And if the answer is no, could you explain? If the answer is yes, could you explain?
The basic answer is no. What you're seeing here is a cost increase, and if you listen through the presentation, we said a couple times it was the same services we provided last year. We're providing those same services, not adding anything. Those same services this year, they just come at a higher cost. Take busing up 600,000. Last year, busing went up $1 million. We're not running additional buses, a few little routes, but for the most part, it's the same footprint, higher cost. The one thing we could do, and it's been contemplated and it's controversial, is we could set up a fund. We could overtax a little in years where the rate of increase is smaller. We increase it just a bit and we put that money aside, and then we let it out in years where the costs are higher, and have a little flexing or smoothing fund, like you would with an expansion tank on a heating boiler, right? Hot water, it fills up. When the water is cooler, it deflates. You can do something like that. It's controversial. It's something that's been talked about. But the basic answer is there's not much we could have done. Even if you added $2 million of funding additional last year, you said the budget is what it is, but we're going to add $2 million to it. Likely, if that money were spent, we'd be in an even bigger problem now, because those expenses would come forward and just grow. So I think the answer, I know the answer is no. There's not anything we could have done. We didn't leave something unfunded and now we're tackling it. We do see that. I don't want to mention other towns in a public meeting, but if you read the papers, other towns are facing very, very high tax increases because they used temporary funds to fund permanent operations, and that's not a good place to be. So the answer is no.
All right. One other question too, and either of you can take it. I know when you and I spoke, so Colleen and I didn't speak on this issue, but this is my eighth budget, eighth cycle. So I've seen it now, different iterations, lots of things have happened, COVID, I've seen a lot of things. In this one, I have a lot of faith in our superintendent. I've seen, and my fear is that, what it's gonna come down to is, are we gonna restore funding? Are we gonna cut further? Those are options up here. But what I wanna hear is that there's cost preventative measures in this budget, specifically the slide referencing the special education. I mean, it's a subtlety, but if you're telling me that, the money in there, if we arbitrarily cut $500,000, it's gonna cost $2 million. That concerns me. So either of you, if you wanna take the question, I just like a little bit more information on that.
We'll tee it up and Superintendent Medancy will take it. When we shook this thing out, we did have to look, there's a point where if you cut, the town is trying to service its students with disabilities in-house to the extent it can, because the student is local and we staff up to do that. If we fail to do that, the case could be made that that student should be outplaced to another school that is better equipped to do that. All these other schools charge us multiples of 3 or 4 what it cost us in town. So if we cut more and we cut into that, we could end up with more outplaced students that then boomerang back with higher bills. There is no cap on what the outplacement schools that we use could charge us back. They don't have a board of finance, or they can come, one year it's 50,000, next year it could be 65. And that's what they're trying to avoid, but that's best for superintendent.
Wow. John, you listened during the budget workshops.
So,
When we talk cost avoidance, what we've tried to do is have the in-house programs. Now, we don't get reimbursed until we hit 4 times the cost for the student. So could we easily outplace a student and get reimbursed? We'd hit that level and then get reimbursed? Yes. But we have developed programs in-house to keep those students here with us so that we don't have to outplace. And I know there's a discussion going on right now in Hartford because Mr. Medancy, who has been up in Hartford testifying to the fact that there's district like ours who are trying to keep students in-house. The private schools are now complaining that districts like ours are trying to close down those schools. So that's a whole different discussion. But that's what we've been doing for the past several years. So, Mr. Medancy, you want to add anything? Okay.
one last question.
Okay.
Hey, Siri.
Siri's talking, I don't know.
Okay. All set, Bill?
Yeah, one more question.
Go ahead, please.
John, one last question for you. I just want to get ahead of it, so we don't see on social media things about fiscal cliff. And I'll ask you this question so long as I'm up here. In your opinion, does this budget have a fiscal cliff?
No. If you looked up the definition, you wouldn't find a good definition. The local Southington definition that's widely accepted of a fiscal cliff is a case where someone else is paying for something and they stop and you're left holding the bag. And I've said this many times, if your neighbor were paying out of the goodness of his heart, was paying your electric bill, and then that neighbor decided to move and you had to now pay your own electric bill, you would say, oh crap, I never paid this before, it's new to me. That's akin to a fiscal cliff. The one little thing like it in the budget is a SAFER grant. When we hired the 3 firefighters, we took on a federal grant from the FEMA, and that grant is called the SAFER grant, where for 3 years, they agreed to cover the cost of the 3 firefighters. When those 3 years run out, and I put it in there, and if anybody was paying attention, I said there's 0 federal grants. When those 3 years run out, we have to hold the bag now. We now own those 3 firefighters. This is the first year where we're gonna be paying the full cost to carry those 3 firefighters. That's the only thing akin to a fiscal cliff, but that was by design and everybody agreed to it, that it was better. We needed the 3 firefighters. It was wonderful to have the federal government pay for 3 years, and we're more than willing to pay for them. That's the piece in there, but there is nothing else in our budget that if you looked, you said, oh, brother, look at that. Had we used somebody else's money for it, and here we are having to hold the bag, and that's what's causing our mill rate to go up. So the categorical answer is no, we do not have a fiscal cliff in the budget.
Maybe accept, Chairman, maybe accept the fact that some of the grants, some of the funding that we've had in this last year from the state, from Hartford, have gone down this past year. So year over year, we're over $1 million
Yeah.
less in state funding this year than we are last year when it comes to the education and the government combined. If we combine the two, I think last time I looked, it was 1.1 or somewhere in that neighborhood between unfunded mandates and funded mandates, where the state of Connecticut has not met their financial obligation and given us less. That's more so on the education side.
Yeah, we're seeing a decrease of educational cost sharing of 257,000, the state giving us 257 less. We're seeing a decrease of the SAFER grant, 215 that I just spoke about. We're seeing a decrease of prorated motor vehicle tax, and we also lost, in the prior year, we lost $800,000 of state sales tax sharing. The state would charge everybody sales tax. Southington people are net payers to the state. I've made that point. They are not giving us back the piece they used to. It's their discretion. It was about $800,000. We're not getting it anymore. But everybody in town should know that we as a town are net taxpayers into the state. That can't be said of larger municipalities. The state should be happy we're here.
Val, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
John, I just have a few questions. Just want to look at my notes here. So the unrestricted fund is at 33 million. The policy is 11%, and
Yep.
the excess now is at 17.8%, right? That you
Yeah,
had?
right here.
Okay. So we have quite a bit in our excess rainy day fund.
Yeah, above the rainy day fund, we have, stuff is going in and out of it, but let's just call it 9 million? 9 million
Which is
above what we need to have per
by
policy.
policy. And in your opinion, the policy is a good policy? We would keep that at 11%, or would that?
Well, there's always, we moved it from 7 to 9. Once we had enough money, we said, let's move the policy, so we rewrote it. We moved it from 9 to 11.
Yep.
There are some, the rating agencies would love for us to move it from 11 to 13. It wouldn't be, we can do it with no cost because with money's there. It's an option. We already have the second highest credit rating, and that's where we want to be. We don't want to be in the AAA and lose it and gain it, and lose it and gain it. We'd rather be in the second tier and hold it, which is where we've been. So it's a valid point, though. We could move it up without,
Well, I think the point, what I'm thinking is, if we're already in the highest rating, which is great to be able to obtain bonds, I don't think we want to move it higher than 11%. My concern is with the excess rainy day fund. To me, that seems like, that's a lot of money.
yeah, and the sad part is, it can only be used to pay down debt, for one-time capital opportunities, or an emergency, even though it's excess rainy day.
Right, so that's my question.
So we can't just say, people here are saying, why are you raising my taxes and you're sitting on $9 million?
Right,
Why
right,
don't
our
you
res-
use it? Well, we
right, our
can't use it
residents
for
need-
operations.
Absolutely, residents need to understand that, and that's
That's
a difficult.
That's the challenge. So we can, and we did, if you looked at close, we pulled out of education, the BOE budget, anything that was capital in nature. We pulled out of the town side a little bit, they didn't have much, that was cash-funded capital, and said, we'll take it from the excess rainy day. If you recall, we bought the Bank of America building and the 84 parking places from the excess rainy day. We were able to do that. It's good and bad, it's a double-edged sword, because we are holding taxpayer money.
Right, so my
and
question,
it-
here's my question.
Yeah.
So from the excess rainy day fund, this budget, we're using 1.5 million for the athletic fields. That's it from the excess rainy day fund, right? Are we using anything?
Maybe another million combined. We're gonna rekey all the locks at the high school.
Okay, so,
Every door has a different key.
so
you know.
security.
We're gonna do
security
that.
issues.
We're gonna do some other projects we pulled out, but
And what are we using, are we using about 1.5,
yes,
the unrestricted?
1.5 for capital.
Per capita. So my question is, was there thought to using funds from the excess rainy day fund to pay down some older debt, to be able to prepare for the large school construction projects that are going to be coming up? Or roads and,
An answer there, a lot of municipalities that are not as healthy as us, they will use something called a BAN, a bond anticipation note. So when they're building, let's just say the library, when they're building their library, they don't have any money. So what they would do, other towns, what they would do is they would borrow in anticipation of bonding. So they'd say, okay, we're gonna build a library, it's gonna cost us, pick a number, $17 million. We're gonna start building it now, but we're not bonding it right away. So they would go and borrow, it's a short-term borrowing called a BAN or a bond anticipation notes. They say in anticipation of us bonding, we're gonna borrow today. We're fortunate that we have the excess rainy day fund, that when we start into a school project, the library, we did not use any bond anticipation notes. In fact, we have some of our money currently tied up in the library. When we finally go with the bond offering, we'll get it back. So we self-fund ourselves, if that's a way of saying it, and not have to borrow interim money. So that's a good thing, that's a plus.
Well, and that's a strategy, right? So
Yeah.
that's a strategy that people might disagree with, right? We have monies in the excess rainy day fund, we have some older bonds. Wouldn't it make sense, especially this year, if we're trying to reduce the debt service, right? We're trying to reduce that. We have a couple older bonds that we probably could have taken, or given some thought to take in another one, maybe 1.1, 1.2, and pay that, get rid of that debt, just get that debt off the books. I understand the strategy on.
Yeah, I don't know about advance payment. We could certainly pay off
Well,
debt,
we'd have to look at
always.
the contract, I mean, it's
Yeah,
debt.
we'd have
so
to
we
look
should
at, we
the
won't pay
contract.
penalties,
Right.
but how soon would it hit? Or how much is, if you look at how much we're borrowing right now, our debt's 129 million. Even if we took our whole 9 million and applied it to that debt, it would go from 129 million to 120 million. Is it,
Well, I wouldn't
makes
say-
sense, it is a
well, I
great,
wouldn't
it's a
say-
fine
I
option.
wouldn't say take 9 million.
Yeah.
No.
Or take
I
5
would-
million or 3 million.
Take-
It's valid, though, it's a valid, it's a,
So there was no, I guess the question is, there really wasn't discussion on that, on,
there was not, because the impact, again, taking 3 million, 4 million, 5 million against 129 million debt that's already locked in, no, there was no discussion, but it's an option.
okay, I mean, it's
But we
something
also
to-
know we need it if we're gonna start tackling Kelly Daranowski Flanders.
Well, that-
We may need it to use our own money and not go out and borrow. If we have to do a ban, the interest rate is higher, it's not a real municipal bond, it's a temporary bridge loan.
That's if we have to do a bid.
Yeah,
That's-
so this money helps us, and a lot of our money's right now tied up in the library, because we're gonna go with a bond offering. Do we have any ideas? Where's Christie?
End of the summer.
End of summer. So, and when we do the bond offering, we'll get paid back for anything we wrap into that. But we have to use bond counsel, it's costly.
So I guess the other question I have then is on, so from the self-insurance fund, we're taking from those reserves.
We're taking from the self-insurance fund, separate
Right,
reserve, but yeah.
But it's from the reserves,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, a different one,
Okay.
not the excess rainy day.
No, but it's almost the same. So with the self-insurance fund, over the last few years, we've taken from the reserves.
Yes, from the self-insurance fund, and we reduced the rate at which people pay into it.
Right, because we don't want, we have the money building up, it's taxpayer money, we'd rather be able to get that out. So isn't that the same for the excess rainy day fund?
Well,
We're talking about-
if we took money out of the excess rainy day fund for operations,
Not
that
for
would, that would be
operations.
operations, or we could
Not
use it
for
for
operations.
capital.
For capital or for paying down debt? You said
Yes,
yourself.
capital or debt, yes. We
paying
could
down
do,
debt.
we
So I-
could pave more roads, we could pay down debt, yes.
Right, so that's the point I'm trying to make, is that
Mm-hmm.
we have done this year after year with the self-insurance fund reserves. We're not doing it with the excess rainy.
Well, we're doing $1.5 million, right? I think we have $1.5 million coming out for capital from excess rainy day.
Right, for the.
And
for
we're
the-
gonna take
for the
another
Board of Ed-
million soon.
For the athletic facilities.
We don't have the exact number, we'll call it $1 million. We're gonna do $1 million to do Board of Ed capital projects and some town capital projects. Last year, if you recall, we took $800,000 and we did police and fire. Half of it was safety related, half of it was publicly disclosed. And then the year before that, we built the vestibule on the high school and tackled about $1 million worth of safety in the schools.
And
So
that's
it's not
all-
like we're not utilizing it effectively, we are putting it to use. Can we do more? Sure. but every year, we've taken that money and done something. Anybody who's gone into high school has to go through a double door lock. There are other things, I joke because they took them away from me, and I don't have the memory to remember them, but we had a list, and they circulated, Colleen over here, she circulated the list. We all saw it, we all voted on it, then she collected it back because it was confidential. So the only thing I remember is the atrium at the double doors at the high school, because it's big. But there were other things that we don't want to disclose publicly that we did for security. There's stuff in the police department we took from that excess rainy day fund, and those are things we don't want to disclose publicly. We bought some really cool stuff, but it's confidential. And
John,
we were able to do it.
I think, and
So we
maybe,
have used it. We could do more, and I know your point is, can we do more?
Right,
Yes.
Right, my point, John, is that we're treating these reserves very differently. And I would like our residents to know that we have a very healthy excess rainy day fund. That's taxpayer money sitting there.
Yes.
And I just think possibly paying down some debt would have helped in this budget.
Or avoiding debt, like we bought the 84 parking places of Bank of America with it.
Thank you, Mr.
if I may, I think there is a difference between the excess rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is a policy fund that we are held accountable for by our creditors. I believe the self-insurance fund is a fund that we manage kind of internally, if you will. It's not tied to the creditor rating rainy day fund. And so operationally, that fund, we flex it up and down depending on the need. So I think you mentioned it, Val, those two rainy day funds are separate. They're two different fund types. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why.
There's a sewer
it's
fund
used.
reserve
Correct.
as
There's a
well.
sewer fund reserve as well that could be used for these type of things. Okay, who else has comments or questions? Tony?
Yeah, this is more of a comment, because I think this budget had a really excellent achievement, which I really think we should understand from a taxpayer perspective, and that's it gives protection to our taxpayers. And by that I mean, we all know inflation started to run rampant after COVID, like 2020 onwards, but since then, every budget, and this is no exception, has been under CPI. Okay, the cost you have for your products. It's been under our wage growth, the fact that we can afford this because our wages have gone up. And lastly, and probably one of the most important things, because we have 20% seniors in this town, it's under Social Security increases as well. So we've kept, the taxes our people need to pay have been kept under those three metrics. And I'll just give you the numbers, okay? And this is next year's budget, obviously, ends in 2026. If you look at our 5 years, including that budget, taxes have gone up 23%, okay? I'll ignore the decimal points. I'll just round them up. 23%. CPI, right now, on the same period, minus this next year, which hasn't happened yet, are currently at 22%. Sorry, 24%, I apologize. So 24%, it's under, even though there's a year's extra spending, it's still under, CPI, okay? Wage growth currently is 22%, the last month figure, which was, March. So even, if our wage growth goes up 2 or 3 points in the next year, we'll be under it. And finally, Social Security. The increase of Social Security since that time has been 22%. Again, a little bit under, what this budget is saying, the taxes is going up. But if you add the 2 or 3% that's going to happen in January, at least, that brings it up to 25%, which again is under our 23% increase of taxes. And I think that's something really important that our taxpayers should understand and should know. For me, it's one of the highlights of this budget.
Thank
And
you.
thanks, guys.
Thank you. Chris?
A couple points. Thank you both for your presentation. I appreciate the overview to start us off this evening. Just a couple comments. First of all, I appreciate the talk about a fiscal cliff. I know we've talked about that many years now. This year, I'm pleased to say I don't really see anything except for the SAFER grant, which I want to come back to. However, the concern in past years, just to make sure we're all clear, was that with federal relief funds, similar to SAFER grant, but the COVID relief funds, there was two methodologies to use that money. The town government pretty much used that for capital, which are non-recurring expenses, versus the Board of Education. Some of that was allocated for operational budget, which is where we came up with that term in the past. So again, I'm happy to hear that this year I don't see any of that. Again, John, and we'll get to the SAFER grant in a minute. Second point is the SAFER grant. I know many residents came out and we talked about the need at the fire department. So with the sunset, if you will, of the current SAFER grant, that does allow an opportunity, because we may be pursuing an additional SAFER grant through conversations at the council, so we are. So just want to be clear so there's not miscommunication that we are not going to pursue a SAFER grant for future needs, but that is basically sunsetting one that we applied for 3-4 years ago and now has come to maturity. The thing with the SAFER grant, too, for the residents is that is known up front. It's a step-down scale, so the federal government will fund fully, and then each year it steps down a little bit so that a municipality can safely prepare for the fiscal impact in their budget. So again, especially if firefighters and families are home watching as well, we are still pursuing a new SAFER grant
Yes.
for this year. So I think that's very important to point out. Second thing. Third thing, just to the town manager, I know the Board of Finance gave the direction this year to reduce the general government budget by $150,000. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. I know many people are here about the library and the Barnes Museum, so I just want to be clear about the suggested reductions. So Alex, just quickly to you.
John, can you put that back up on your slide while he's doing that?
Put what up?
The
You had the,
150,000 for the,
Yeah.
yeah, so generally, the proposal that came from the manager to respond to the Board of Finance's request to cut $150,000 is to reduce a position at the Barnes for approximately $48,000, to reduce a position at the library by approximately $111,000, okay? And then there is another shift in the library, and Alex, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. It almost looks like we're taking an admin assistant bookkeeper position and trading it for a librarian. Is that correct?
Almost correct. The admin bookkeeper position is being converted or changed out to a full-time librarian, more public-facing.
Okay.
The first one about removing a full-time position, that's not accurate. There's two part-time
No.
positions that were vacant.
An outreach coordinator position for roughly $48,000 at the Barnes Museum, a part-time librarian
Yeah.
for roughly $111,000. This is with salary and benefits and everything. It isn't just the salary. And then I see the other impact at the library is almost a trade, which is for the admin assistant bookkeeper, trading it for a full-time librarian.
That's correct. The only thing I'll just say is it was two part-time positions that were unfilled that were removed
Okay.
at the time. So not one, it was two.
Okay.
Two part-times for the
Okay.
111.
All right, thank you. So I just want to point that out clearly because I know a lot of people are here for the library and museum, so that it's clear that those were cut after the Board of Finance really decided on the dollar amount,
And
$150,000.
one finance position, and we added one firefighter.
Yeah.
just to
Okay.
complete
Yes,
the
so I
story.
see some things added, some things taken away, but it net to $150,000.
Correct. And that's the Board of Finance budget. The original town manager budget had some year-over-year reductions in it as well.
Right, okay, thank you.
thank you, Chris. Anybody else on the dais would like, Mr. Del Santo?
Thank you, again, John and Colleen, thank you very much for those presentations. John, I'm a dummy, so when you give your presentation, I like the way you do it because I can fully understand it. So I want to reset back to what Chair Chaplinsky said about the unfunded mandates that often come through from the state of Connecticut. You had said that Southington residents are net payers to the state, and oftentimes Southington gets overlooked, I would imagine, because we're a fairly well-run town. Would that be your assessment? I mean, you had said other towns probably get more of those unfunded mandates. They fund them.
Yes, like if you
Southington
look at
says-
New Britain, Waterbury, they're Alliance District towns, they get funded, their education is primarily funded from the state. Ours, we only receive 17% of our education funding from the state. The rest is on our taxpayers.
And that's not only happening in the education system, it's happening on the government side as well. I brought something up a few weeks ago where the federal government gives money to the Calendar House, gives money to the state of Connecticut that should be spread out over the towns of Connecticut. And Southington is at a point right now where we can't fund lunches at the Calendar House. I mean, thank goodness, and Missy's here tonight. Bread for Life helps because they're an amazing organization. But the state of Connecticut, once again, has given us the old Scroogey. Southington always seems to be getting less than others because we do a good
Yeah,
job.
and you look at Hartford, New Haven, they receive a lot from the state. They're dependent on the state.
That's a problem for me. Thank you.
Thank
A
you,
lot
Mr.
of
Del
people
Santo.
will say, I keep going here, but a lot of people in town have called, and especially on the conservative side of the aisle, and say, why do we take anything from the state? Why do we take anything? The answer is, we don't want to, even like you see money came to enhance the library, to take it from 16 million, 5 up, right? We say, why do we accept it? Because it's only going to increase our tax out of our other pocket. We're taxpayers in Southington out of every pocket. We pay the federal government, we pay the state, we pay the town. But the answer is if we don't take it, somebody else will. That's but not that we want state spending to go up and we want to pay more state income tax, but if we don't take it, Hartford would be happy to take that $5 million that Mr. Poulos helped us get for our library.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, just real quick. I did speak with Representative Poulos about this and Senator Sampson, and they were basically both told that's just the way it is with the Calendar House piece. So,
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I got a quick question. Mr. Larry, if you could just quickly go over maybe, our roads funding. I think that, that referendum that went out last year that passed, I think that's a very important subject, that we've heard from our residents. Obviously, they voted to, spend. So maybe just kind of give a recap of, how that is being done this year.
I could prepare like an analysis for you. I'll give a high level, because it's buried in here. We do go to referendum every 5 years for roads. A long time ago, we used to get low SIP grants, local aid to municipalities. They're nicknamed the TAR grants because they're used for tar, which is asphalt anthracite, to pave the roads. We used to get a lot of that, but we don't get enough to even do a fraction of what we need to do in terms of roads and bridges. So a long while back, we decided we were going to go to referendum, borrow, repay, and go into that cycle where we borrow for the roads. We do that. We also take capital, in the capital budget, we put in roads and bridges too. And it's hard to keep up. 2 reasons. Number one, we do have a system, a pavement management system that has a pavement management index. Every road or every leg of a road, sections of a road are in there, and depending on the traffic on the road, the way the road's constructed, does it have drainage, doesn't it? It requires a certain amount of maintenance, from crack filling, putting liquid in the cracks, to doing a reclaim, to doing a mill and overlay, to doing a full-blown rebuild with sewers and everything. There's all different techniques. We're trying to keep up. So what's the headwind? What hurts us? What hurts us is the freeze-thaw cycles. I think you all saw, we used to budget for 5 snowstorms a year, and we used to get them. Nice, cold snowstorms. A lot of snow would land. We'd plow it in a short amount of time. Kids would play in it. It was a different world. Now, we're seeing long elongated weather events. We're not getting a lot of snow. We get ice, it freezes, it melts. We put salt on it, the salt melts. It's killing our roads, our driveways, people's sidewalks, businesses, that freeze-thaw cycle, and it's costing more and more money to keep up with. We can do it, and we're gonna pave this year. The asphalt plants are open now, we're out paving, but it's a challenge. Even with the referendum question, even with the referendum being approved by the taxpayers, it's a challenge, but our roads are comparatively, if you look around, we are at a higher overall index. I think we shoot for a 7. I'm not a town engineer, but we try, and we not only try, we try and we do, and everybody works hard. But the beginning of the year, a lot of people were moaning and groaning, rightly so, because the freeze-thaw patterns left potholes everywhere. The asphalt plants were down, and we could only use cold patch.
If I may, I just want to get to the financial part. I think that Councilman
Yeah.
Perry's asking about, and the town manager can clarify. In the past, with the $10 million referendums, I think we were in the $2.5 million we were spending roughly per year on pavement projects. With the new referendum, we're 3.5 plus, somewhere in that area. So we've significantly increased the paving starting this year. So once the schools are out, there'll be a significant increase in paving that'll last through the summertime when the students are out. I think that's the general financial that you're talking about. And maybe are the numbers correct, or is there something?
Numbers are correct. We're gonna be a little bit more aggressive this year. There's a few limitations. One is it's not just paving, it's redoing the catch basins, and we only have so many
Crack
people who can
sealing.
do that. You have to, a lot of preparation. Tilcon is typically here, and it's a state bid, so we have a state bid every year through Tilcon. They usually get here at the beginning of July, and they're gone by the end of July. It's a very fast process. It's 4 weeks from start to finish.
Perfect, thank you. And then, just lastly, on the Board of Finance end, we've heard obviously from our firefighters earlier this year, wanting more staffing. We've done the survey, the study that was done by an independent firm, and obviously staffing is low. Going forward, is there a game plan? Because, yes, we're gonna add 1, hopefully get 3 more through the SAFER grant, but, I think there needs to be more funding allocated to the fire department, to make sure we have proper staffing. Volunteerism is down, and that's a concern, especially it's public safety. So is the Board of Finance working towards, increasing that number so that next, budget process, hopefully we have these 3, but hypothetically, if we don't get these 3, we're kind of now 3 behind. And if I remember correctly, the study states that we should have, I think it's closer to 20 more, if I remember correctly. So that's just a concern, especially with the population growing in our community.
Studies are very dependent on who studies them. But yes, when you look closely, the issue in Southington is how many firefighters are on a truck. And I'm not the fireman here either, I just went and spent the day with them. The issue is what we want to do is we want to get to 4 on a truck. And then if somebody calls out, we still have 3 on a truck. We have a useful amount of people on an apparatus, and we don't backfill. The money we're seeing in overtime, it's excessive overtime. We had to fund it several $100,000 more than was budgeted because of 2 people on medical leave. And then when somebody gets called out, somebody gets called in, and they're not working on 8-hour shifts. If I call out sick from work, I'm out for 8 hours. They call out sick, they're out for 24. It's a little different, but we do want to get to staffing of 4 people per truck. And now we have trucks at Company 3 during the day, Headquarters Company, and Company 5. And the Company 5 is staffed 24/7. Headquarters Company's 24/7. Clark Street is only working hours, or regular 9 to 5 type hours. I don't know exactly. But if we get to 4 per truck, we have to do 2 things. We've got to get our staffing up a little bit, and we'll do it. We have 1 person in the budget now. If we get, the SAFER grant comes in 3s. So if we get 3 from the SAFER grant, that's 4, and that gets us where fire wants us to be. And then it's a matter of looking at the contract very closely in terms of backfilling. When do you backfill? What point, what triggers it? There's a lot of triggers for it, and we have to look at those because they become very costly in overtime.
Yeah, I just have a major concern, especially when it's public safety. You know, station number 3 in Milldale, you know, that's I'm pretty sure staffed 8 to 3. You know, and we all know fires do not work working hours. They happen when you don't expect them. So that's Monday to Friday. That was, you know, provided from the SAFER grant. So, you know, I would love to see that fire station staffed 24/7. It's a beautiful station being underutilized. We have a lot of fire apparatus, no one to drive them, nobody to fight the fires, which is very concerning. And, you know, I hate for when it's close to an emergency that then this room's filled with people and we promise them that we're gonna do this. My concern is that with all the federal cuts on the federal level, you know, what will happen with the SAFER grant? You know, that's FEMA funded, I'm pretty sure, and there's
Yes.
a lot of cuts to FEMA at the moment. So that's a concern of mine.
So right now, we're hiring one in the budget, there's one in the budget. They're applying for the SAFER, the FEMA SAFER grant now. If they don't get it, then we'll gradually get there. We won't get there as fast. Next year, maybe we'll, you know, contemplate adding another 1 or 2. We'll get there, it just drags out a little bit. But don't remember, just a couple of years ago, there was no Company 5 or Company 3. It's not
And
like
just-
we've been
and
having
let's-
these empty companies.
And let's not forget, this council is the council that voted to open that firehouse with the firefighters that are there. This council's committed to continuing that trend. I think, you know, we all voted to approve the additional firefighter and the SAFER grant. So with some luck, we'll have 4 coming come January. If not, this council will revisit that and see, you know, what options we have, right? Val?
Just quickly, so is the contingency is higher than it typically is at 1.3? Is that why? Because we may not, if we don't get the SAFER
Open
grant?
union contracts, a lot of that's, when the union contract is open, we hold some money in contingency, because the union contracts sometimes they're going without a contract. When the contract gets approved, we owe them back pay. We put that in contingency because we don't know the amount
Right.
at the time of the budget.
And there's 3 unions still outstanding.
Okay, so that's why the contingency is 1.3, not the SAFER
Correct.
grant issue.
We have 4 collective bargaining agreements expiring in July 1st. One of them has been settled. We're working on the other 3.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Jen?
Yes, thank you so much, John. From what we see, there is balance. You touched on all of the different, you know, points, and one thing that I think gets glossed over each year when I listen to these, and we have a lot of residents here, a lot watching, it feels like the whole world is watching because of how, you know, cost creep is happening, but can you just briefly touch on how important it is for our town to be AA+ rated? Because I feel like with everything going on in a lot of other municipalities, we are that is a differentiator, and it's a testament to the hard work of, you know, your team and Board of Ed and all of the different collaboration throughout town.
That's a good question. That's been a bipartisan thing for a long time. I think our Board of Finance has always been conservative in a lot of ways for decades, and I think it's a credit to everyone. But look at this first line, answers the question. The 3-school solution, we're looking at $245 million. Yes, some of it will be funded by the state. The state likes to fund union projects. This is a union, every municipality is a union project, to be honest. Put it on the table. The state will help us, and they'll do some cost sharing with us when we rebuild the schools. But if we did not have that bond rating, and we did not have our rainy day fund where we were, and we did not have a balanced budget, the cost of debt would be way more. When they talk about somebody going with a 700 or 800 credit rating to buy a car, that's our taxpayers of the town of Southington. We talk about somebody with a 100 credit rating going to buy a car, that's not us. So we're in a good position because of our taxpayers. It's not because of me. It's our taxpayers have funded all of this, and, you know, the whole entire 6-member board before me, with me, and hopefully after me will keep their eye on this stuff.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jim? Vice Chairman?
Since we touched on the road and the referendum, one thing that we didn't talk about is that, again, that's a process that's done every 4 years. It's what we do to fund the roads. But what we didn't talk about is the fact that asphalt has increased dramatically in cost. So 4 years ago, we could do X length. This year, we can't do that length because the cost is probably 25% more, if not more. So again, that was another reason why we went to the accelerated number in the referendum. So we would have a little bit more money to be more aggressive, as the town manager said. An excellent job on the budget, guys.
Jack,
Thank you.
please, go ahead. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, to the town manager, do you remember the dollar amount for the road repairs that we're currently at? I know the former Public Works director did a presentation, and I want to say it was in the 70-something million dollar range.
If we brought all of our roads up to where we wanted to be.
And I
Mr.
think
Del
that's
Santos
why
is 73. I thought it was
we
a low
increased it
72.
because,
Yeah.
you know, the roads were deteriorating more than we were bonding, you know, with the referendum. So that's why we went to the 15 million, because 10 million didn't keep them current. You know, that number was, you know, rolling, so it was like credit card debt. We were never getting ahead. So the 15 million is supposed to help us try to get ahead.
I had a resident call me Friday and ask, why don't we just do them all? And I said, because that'd be more than our budget currently is, the entire town budget. So, yeah, it's
It's a good point.
not
Thanks, Jack.
sustainable.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Anybody else? Okay, so, John, you all set?
I'm all set.
Colleen? Thank you. As we begin the public phase here, and I think, you know, many people are here to talk a little bit about the impact to the library and the barns. I did receive a call earlier in last week or the week before from the chairwoman of the library board, Tina Riccio, who's here, regarding this issue. And I encouraged Tina to work with her team and the library director and work with the town manager to talk through what they were thinking about. And Tina has asked if she can come kick us off and present the findings of the discussions that they've all had. I know with the budgets and everything that's going on, I know John likes to use the analogy, you know, when you're juggling eggs, once in a while you break an egg. And so you're cracking eggs. So Tina's here to talk a little bit about egg cracking.
Thank you. I don't have a presentation like John. That was super impressive.
It's eating eggs.
Good evening, members of the Southington County Council. I'm Tina Riccio, 124 Andrews Street. I'm the library board chair, and my comments have the support of the entire board of directors of the Southington Public Library and the Barnes Museum. The proposed cuts to the library and the Barnes reduce library staff by 10.4% and the Barnes Museum staff by 32.4%. These cuts will limit program offerings, reduce public service desk coverage, and hinder our ability to respond to community needs. So I'm here to respectfully request your support for the reinstatement of funds for a full-time programming position to be shared between the Barnes and the Southington Public Library. There's still a reduction in positions, and the library leadership is working on ways for the library to operate more efficiently and absorb this activity if the full-time program role is reinstated. This reinstatement of a full-time shared position is supported by the town manager, the library board, the library director, and the Barnes curator, and it represents a meaningful strategic investment in the cultural, educational, and economic future of our town. With the approval of the new library building, past boards and former directors did not request an increase in staffing. Even though it was bigger and we knew we'd have more use, we kept it as status quo. We understood that we needed to collect data and assess what was needed before simply requesting additional staffing. But we do not believe we can sustain services without the reinstatement of the one full-time position. Our new library is already proving to be a wise investment. People come for obviously more than books. They come for educational programs, job seeking, help, technology assistance, and it's a safe, welcoming place, right, to connect and to learn. The same can be said of the Barnes Museum, which offers meaningful cultural engagement and lifelong learning. In the first few months since the new library opened, circulation is up 12%, library card requests have more than doubled, and visits are up 9% over the same period last year. These are great numbers, but with more usage comes more demand on staff and on resources. We continue to provide great value to our community through a lean operation. You can reference the data sheet. I sent you a couple of sheets earlier today via email, and it compares Southington to other libraries, and you can see that we're already doing more with less. Southington's library currently operates with just 0.36 FTEs per 1,000 residents, compared to Wallingford, which has 0.76, Middletown 0.78, and Cheshire has 0.63. The library has 15.88 FTEs, while those towns have 33.05, 37.50, and 18.50 respectively. Yet we offered 850 programs in July through June last year. It's a little bit below Wallingford, but it's significantly more than the amount of programs Middletown and Cheshire offered, with more staff. So library leadership is continuing to collect data and will make adjustments to resources to most effectively serve the public. Over the past 3 years, the Barnes Museum has evolved from a historic residence with amazing artifacts and stories into a cultural and historical phenomenon, and a means by which we educate Southington residents about Southington's rich contributions to the industrial and cultural revolutions of Connecticut through standing room only events. I mean, Christina Volpe is a revolutionary. Since last July, for example, the Barnes Museum has become a vital center for community engagement with its innovative and high-impact programs such as monthly teas, walking tours, history pints, Taste of Southington, Shakespeare in the Park, and all of their popular holiday events. These offerings not only preserve Southington's history, they help generate revenue and community pride. They attract visitors to Southington and deliver direct economic support to our local businesses. Studies show heritage tourists spend up to 60% more than the average traveler. Since July, these events have brought in over $9,000 to the Barnes Museum. So continuing at this level will not be possible without staff who can focus on outreach and programming. The Board of Directors has a plan to work towards making the Barnes Museum fully self-funded in the years ahead, and we're well on our way to achieving that goal. But again, in order to continue building strong, consistent programming, we need sufficient funding and sufficient staffing. The Barnes Museum and the Public Library are more than buildings. They're investments in our people, our history, our culture, and our future. This shared position is a practical, forward-thinking way to meet growing demands, increase revenue, and fulfill the promises that we made to the public who voted for the new library. Again, I respectfully request your support for the reinstatement of a full-time shared programming position between the Barnes and the library. Thank you for standing with our public library and our Barnes Museum and with the people of Southington, and thank you for your continued support of our mission.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We're gonna open it up to the public, so if anybody, if you are a resident of Southington, or you own a business in town, or you work in town, and you would like to speak, you don't need to raise your hand, just please come on up to the podium. You need to state your name and address for the record, and then please let us know. And feel free to, as you see the line going down, feel free to stand behind and line up.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Violet Hansen. I'm a freshman at Southington High School, and I'm also on the Teen Advisory Board at the library. I kind of want to speak on behalf of all the teenagers in this community. I'd like to make 2 points. The first one being is that the library is an incredibly safe place for teenagers. Since the new library has opened, I have seen a decrease in teenagers just being out, being reckless. I've seen, before the library had opened, I'd seen a lot of fooling around in Dollar Trees and etc. And since the library has opened, there has been an incredible increase of teenagers in, studying, just simply hanging out. And it is I have never seen so many teenagers just get together in one room, and it's honestly really beautiful to see. My second point is that our librarians in our library has done so much for our town. So as I stated previously, I'm a part of the Teen Advisory Board, and we organize Comic-Cons, events, we've done birthday parties, and our librarians just put in so much effort to bring our community together and make our town a better place. And I don't think that it is fair that, you know, people who work at our libraries who do so much for us should have to risk losing their jobs. That's it.
Thank you, Violet. Well said, and thank you for your volunteer work.
Good evening, board members. Missy Cipriano, 891 Queen Street, Southington.
Elks Citizen of the Year as well this year. Congratulations.
I'm the vice chairperson alongside with Tina Riccio. I'm also the chairperson of the Barnes Museum. Today I wanted to continue on with Mrs. Riccio's statement and support the work that we have done this past week, working and collaborating, talking with our town manager, different people on the town council. Thank you for your time. It's really important that we show that we are working towards the betterment of what that young lady just so perfectly said. You know, we have a beautiful library and people are involved in it. The students are loving it. My point here today is to talk a little bit more about the Barnes Museum. I am the chairwoman of the Barnes Committee. We have seen an increase like never before, a revival, let's say, of our town history, good, bad, and indifferent. But we have a curator that is not just looking at what she has, but who it serves. And so I want you to realize that this reinstatement of that full-time person that we have agreed upon, that full-time would be part-time at the Barnes, part-time at the library. This young lady came as an intern for a whole year in our town, not from our town, but became engulfed in everything that we stand for. Why wouldn't she be the perfect person to fill that spot and bring all that she has brought over the last 3 years to our library with more programming and the innovation that she has brought alongside Mrs. Volpe, bringing history to every part of our town. As you all know, I'm the executive director at Bread for Life. They have come and brought that to our citizens who are struggling, that didn't know so much about our town. And they have taken the time to go there and everywhere else. From town to town, as you read the reports that Tina emailed you all, you see how far and wide Christina Volpe and Nadia have gone. I wanted you to share the approval that I wish that you guys, the proposal of the position. Nadia's career here in our town is going to be an advancement in this full-time position. And I want to strongly encourage the town council to reconsider putting that money back in so we can become self-sufficient at the Barnes Museum. 3 years ago, we wrote a strategic plan. And that strategic plan was, in 3 to 5 years, we are going to do all our work to ensure that the town will not have to carry this burden forever. We're working on it. The $9,000 in 1 year, and we're not done yet with that year, shows the work that is being done to make sure the Barnes can be self-sufficient. We need more years in order for that to happen and more players to come to this table. So I thank you all for what you're doing, for listening to us, for partnering with Tina and I this past week in conversations, and we're going to continue to work together to keep our library strong, our museum giving history points across the world. If you don't know, like everywhere is talking about Southington Barnes Museum like they never did 5 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Southington Town Council. I'm Joanne Kelleher, 861 Savage Street here in Southington. And I am a proud member of the Board of Directors of the Southington Public Library and Barnes Museum. First, I want to express my support for the request presented by the board chair to reinstate to the proposed budget a full-time shared programming position between the Barnes Museum and the library. I also want to thank Tina and Missy for all of their work and time and effort over the past week. Second, I want to acknowledge and thank everyone who came here tonight to this budget hearing or submitted their written testimony, I know that there were quite a few of them, to support the Library Museum. So just out of curiosity, show of hands, supporting the Library Museum. Yay. But I also want to express my personal concerns around the reasons why we needed to be here tonight at all. After all the efforts to plan, fund, and build, I'm looking at you, Jim, build a new public library, and to expand the outreach of the Barnes Museum, I was disappointed to learn that the town budget proposed included reductions to the staff and to the Barnes Museum. And I want to point out that replacing 2 part-time employees who work 21.5 hours a week with 1 full-time employee who works 35 hours a week is an additional reduction in the net work hours. And because the library is open 4 days a week from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., you need that scheduling flexibility. Restoring a full-time programming position shared between the 2 organizations will help, but these cuts on top of already operating far below the state average for library staffing is going to limit program offerings, reduce coverage at the 3 service desks, and constrain the library's ability to respond to community needs. As the executive director of the Early Childhood Collaborative of Southington, a nonprofit that supports families with young children, I'm especially concerned about the impact of the staff cuts on the children's department. Our town has been experiencing a baby boom with more than 415 children born each year in 2021, 2022, and 2024. These children are now preschoolers who traditionally are the target audience of many library children's programs. With the current staff openings, we are already seeing a reduction in program offerings at the library, and I'm concerned it's going to get worse. For example, last spring, there were 68 people who attended Baby Prom, an activity for families with young children that was held in the library cafe. Comic-Con was mentioned earlier. Last year, about 750 people of all ages attended that at the Southington Drive-In. Neither event is on the schedule for this spring because of staffing. In conclusion, I request your support for a full-time shared programming position between the Barnes Museum and the Southington Public Library. But thinking bigger, I would like to see the budget restored back to that which was proposed by the library director or the town manager's original budget. I'm also requesting that the town plan ahead for expanded personnel and programs at the library and Barnes in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Tarabeshi, and I live at 210 Russet Lane, where I moved in 2012. I am a transplant to this town. And the first thing you learn as a transplant to this town is that almost everybody was born and raised here, and they stay here. And they stay here for very good reason. So usually when we talk about investing in our future, it's hyperbole, right? It's theoretical, but in Southington, it's actually fact, right? And it's imminent fact. So as you finalize this budget, my hope is that you keep in mind the phenomenon, that valuable contribution of our library and our schools to the Southington community, not only because the library and the schools are a factor in why citizens want to stay in this community or move here to begin with, but more importantly because the library and the schools create and support the kind of quality citizens we want in our community 5 years from now, 10 years from now. My children, who are now teens at Southington High School, grew up in the Southington school system and the Southington Library. Because the libraries and schools care so much about supporting the youth of our town, our youth are the epitome of what we all want youth to be. Southington youth spends their time engaged in academic pursuits, creative activities, volunteering opportunities, community outreach, all resulting in accolades for this town and a warm, vibrant community culture. Our public libraries and schools are not simply a community service for our youth. They teach our youth how to serve our community. And young people grow to be adults, ones who more likely than not will stay in Southington. So, in finalizing the budget, I hope you consider the kinds of people we want caring for this town 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and that keeping that library budget going And keeping the schools going and keeping that Barnes Museum going is keeping the quality of our town going years from now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, council members. Name is Louis Schassler, 24 Verndale Court. I've been here 4 times or so I'm back. As you know, I've
Welcome
always
back.
been advocating for seniors and persons with disabilities, and every year taxes go up. When you talked about Social Security keeping up with things, it does not. This year, Social Security was 2.5%. That's it, 2.5% increase, 2020.
Talking about 5 years.
Yeah, but I'm talking, we live year to year. We don't live, when you're disabled or old, you don't live 5 years out. You live week to week, basically. So at a 4.25%, we're already in the hole. As a senior, people with disabilities, you can't make up that income. You can't get another job. You can't work overtime, and you're stuck. Now, I've talked to the finance department and your group to come up with any ideas to assist seniors who've been here decades, participated in town. Even myself, I've been here for 25 years. I volunteered for the town, had businesses here. And unfortunately, me and my wife both are disabled within the last 5 years, unable to work. So the board doesn't have any recommendations. I was thinking one maybe you can think about. Why don't people who are strictly living off Social Security or Social Security disability as their only income, that their taxes are capped on that year's Social Security's increase? So say this year was 2.5%. This year, that group of people, their taxes go up 2.5, not 4.25. You're still getting tax revenue, but it's more palpable because every year we're slowly getting pushed out of our homes. And what does that say to the younger families? If seniors or people with disabilities can't afford the property taxes any longer, would they want to stay here? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But it is hard when you don't have an extra inflow, especially now in these uncertain times. Who knows 6 months from now if the economy crashes and expenses go up, we have no way to cover extra for food and other basic services. So since no one ever came back to me with an ideas, I figured I'd throw a proposal out to you and maybe you can bat that around, something simpler. Just, we still pay increases, but not quite as high as those who have means to be able to make that little higher portion of taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schassler.
Good evening, Dr. Laura Triano, 61 Russell Road in Milldale. I'm here on behalf of myself and my neighbors in Milldale. For the past 8 years, the major deficiencies involving the pavement, sidewalk, and drainage system of Russell Road has been brought to the attention of Town of Southington staff and officials, and including multiple requests to properly repair the road. To date, this has not occurred, and the road's condition has continued to worsen. For the past 3 months, however, the long-standing disrepair of Russell Road has been discussed at the Public Works Committee meetings. And in fact, just today, IMTL came and took pavement boring samples to assess the road's underlying pavement condition and subbase thickness in anticipation of a major road renovation. Recently, the town attorney, if I may quote you, Attorney Martaccio, also concurred that Russell Road requires extensive work, including, quote, ripping up the existing asphalt, lowering the base, installing new drainage, and repaving the entire road. It's my understanding from previous discussions that the type of work required to properly repair Russell Road does not fall within the $15 million in bonded funds for routine paving that was approved by Southington taxpayers last November. And to this end, I would request in this forum publicly for those who are here, as well as those who are listening or viewing at home, that there be specific delineation of where in the budget funding is, where's the allocation of funding for major road repairs that fall outside of all of the paving, routine paving that's been discussed this evening. And unfortunately, I think Mr. Leary is no longer with us. It would be a question perhaps that he could also clarify. And secondly, just because
we tend to think that Milldale doesn't get the same love that other areas of Southington often do. I believe, I was pleased to see that the funding for improvements of Fire Station number 3, I think he misspoke and referred to that as River Street, that's number 5. We have number 3, and we're very happy and proud and appreciative to have that fire station in Milldale. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Emma Russo Savage. I live at 36 Oak Street, just around the corner from the Barnes Museum. I'm here tonight to urge you to reconsider the proposed budget cuts for the library. Our library offers a wealth of events and spaces, as has been talked about by people tonight, for people of all ages, including baby programs, toddler programs, and preschool programs that are so important for children's socialization and early literacy skills. And then as well as the summer reading programs for children to retain their skills over summer slide, and then programs for adults too, whether it's the book clubs that happen off-site at local businesses and support those local businesses, or the cookbook clubs that I've seen when I've been there in the morning and seen like 20, 30 people coming in excitedly with all their dishes to meet people with similar interests. And then things like computers and the proctoring services that the library staff offers are so important in this digital age for people to access now that so much of schooling and learning has moved online. And lastly, as our first speaker here tonight mentioned, the space for the teens and having a safe space for teens to go to socialize that isn't roaming around on the streets, both imposing a danger to themselves and maybe to motorists and things like that. And then even if you are not a library user and are not familiar with any of those services, the impact of a good public library on a town can't be understated. I moved here from Wallingford in like 2017, which has a thriving, wonderful library, and I was very excited when we had our son 3-ish years ago to learn of the planned improvements for the library and all the services that were offered for young families, and then to see the new library go up after the overwhelming support for the referendum. And then to hear that this budget was going to decrease staffing, which had never been increased to accommodate the new services and space that the library had, felt like it went against the will of the voters in that referendum, and was a disappointment to see. So if nothing else, the actions of the Southington voters should speak for sort of where the budget would make sense to go for that, and what the Southington voters wanted from that new and improved library space. I know that with more funding, our library could be an even better asset to our community than it already is, and I urge you to reconsider those funds and to reconsider reinstating the full funds, although I understand the diplomacy of asking for one full-time librarian. We could do better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Amalisa, appreciate it. Good evening.
Good evening. Thomas Cole, 10 North Summit Street. I'm here tonight to express my support for the Barnes Museum. The budget proposed by the Board of Finance for the upcoming fiscal year would cut its funding by around 32%. It would do so by eliminating the outreach coordinator / preservationist position currently occupied by Nadia Dillon, which cost the town around 1/5,000th of its overall budget this fiscal year. This cut would leave the museum's curator, Christina Volpe, as its only paid staff member. This evening, I'd like to share the impact that Nadia, Christina, and the Barnes Museum have had on my life in the past few months, and why I believe their funding should remain intact. This past February, my history teacher told us we'd be having a guest speaker come to class to give a presentation on the Gilded Age in Southington. I've never really been interested in that time period, so I wasn't expecting very much, but Christina came and the presentation was amazing. It was like super down to earth and involved, and it connected the national trends we'd studied in class with what had been going on locally. And at the end, she gave us all copies of her book, The Barnes Museum in Homestead, and said she'd take any of us as interns. A few weeks later, I emailed the museum asking for a summer internship. Nadia, the outreach coordinator, brought me in for an interview and set me up with volunteer opportunities to get involved with the Barnes before the school year ended. I volunteered at a few of their presentations so far, and they've been just as engaging as the one in class. Both Nadia and Christina have taught me so much about our town's history, and I know there's so much more to learn. None of this would have been possible without Nadia. I've seen firsthand the valuable role she plays in running the museum and the impact her work has on our community, including on me. my internship likely never would have happened without her, and its future is uncertain as long as her position is in jeopardy. And I believe what she does for our town is worth more, not less, than the roughly 0.02% of its budget she currently receives. And it might seem like Southington, as a city of progress, shouldn't care about its past, but I would argue that an understanding of the past is essential to informed progress. Knowing history provides us a sense of which way is up, of what we want to progress toward. Organizations like the Barnes Museum are invaluable because they educate their communities about local history and consequently allow them to have a local sense of direction. In the dedication of the Barnes Museum in Homestead, Christina reminds the reader that history is all around us, we just have to look. The work that she and Nadia do has helped me see Southington's past in my day-to-day life, and it's done the same for countless other interns, volunteers, and members of our community. In a true city of progress, their funding would not be cut. Thank you.
Thomas.
Great job. That's our future.
Thomas, well said. And I just want to thank you for volunteering. Please ensure that you keep doing that. We need your help, and Christine is a wonderful person. So thank you for acknowledging her.
I'm glad you did that. And I'd like to thank the gentleman behind me. Let me sit until he saved my spot. So thank you, sir. Regina Coviello, 12 Beecher Street. I first would like to show everybody what I brought with me today because it is important to why I have watched but not attended the last few town council meetings. I felt very uncomfortable after some social events. This is on the shelf at my home. It says this home built by
Regina,
love
if you
and
can just talk to us
shenanigans.
here, please.
This home is built by love and shenanigans. And the reason I brought that is because it is important, because I was told on social media by a town council member to stop my shenanigans because I asked for an elected official to be accountable for his actions. I was told to bring, why don't I bring another complaint to the Board of Ethics so it could be dismissed and cost taxpayers money. The Ethics Board, which is another story, dismissed it and told me to get a lawyer if I wanted to go further. First of all, I brought the complaint to the town council and was told they were unable to handle it and to go to the Ethics Board.
Regina?
Yep.
Just before you continue, we're in a public hearing about the budget only, so I
And
just want
this
to
is
make sure
part-
we're focusing
I
on the
told
budget.
you about taxes.
Okay,
Taxes
thank
are
you.
written in this.
Just want to focus on the budget, thank you, because there
No.
is public communication later on.
When someone says that they're going to cost taxes and it's untrue, I have a right to respond. This did not waste taxpayers' money, but the 2 police officers at a meeting being paid overtime did. The town council member has also said to stop the shenanigans to including another town council member at one of these meetings. I find it very disrespectful. Ethics is not only financial matters, but respect. So with this being said, I ask the residents of this town to come to more meetings and speak your mind, not just town council meetings, but all town meetings. Don't let anyone deter you or stop you. It doesn't matter whether everyone agrees with you. We, the taxpayers, pay for the running of this town and therefore have the right to speak. So what can I say about the budget? Taxes keep getting higher, but what advantages are we getting for it? The Board of Ed deserves more to help the kids of this town thrive and get their future. But then taxes would be higher and we can't afford that. So please don't take anything away from their budget. We need more firefighters, but we can't afford that. Sorry, I'm having health issues.
Take your time. There's no time limit on the public hearing, so take your time.
Yet without a referendum, $2.1 million was spent on the Bank of America property downtown. I'm pretty sure if it would have gone through referendum, it probably wouldn't have passed. Southington also has a lawsuit that is out of mediation and going to court. Where is the money going to come from for that? And what about all the new businesses that have been built over the years? When they came up at meetings, we hear how they are going to help with taxes. So when do the residents get to see the benefits from that? Something needs to be done about the spending in this town. I sometimes wonder if it really matters what we say, but I will continue to speak up. As elected officials, you are supposed to represent all residents, not just the ones in your party or with your views. And you should never be telling a resident to stop talking about what matters to them or dismissing a complaint without any actions. Unfortunately, you as town council members have probably already made up your minds before this public hearing even began about the budget. I do hope that you listen to everyone and everyone as individuals, not as parties, for what would be the best for all residents. If as residents, we don't like the outcome of the budget, we need to speak up. So as the same council member told me, it's an election year. So remember, each and every elected official and their actions, and vote accordingly. My last line, let the shenanigans begin.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, my name is Sean Grindle. I live at 119 Pattonwood Drive. So tonight I come to speak to you as the father of two daughters at Thalberg Elementary, a teacher at Flanders Elementary, and the political action chair of the Southington Education Association. But mostly I'm just here as someone who loves this town. I want to see it live up to everything that it can be. Because Southington isn't just a spot on a map, it's a community. It's families at the Apple Harvest Festival deciding if the fritter line's too long to stand in. It's kids visiting the library after school, not because they have to, but because they want to. It's neighbors catching up at the YMCA or at a local coffee shop or a local coffee shop next to the YMCA. This is a town that people like me chose. And if we want to keep seeing it being that kind of place, the kind of place where people are proud to call home, then we need to make smart, serious investments, starting with our schools and libraries. Tonight, I'm urging the town council to approve the Board of Ed's proposed in the library's budget in full with no non-specific cuts, no compromises, no half measures. Southington schools are a point of pride, and they didn't get that way by accident. They got that way because people before you decided that it was worth it, because they funded classrooms and libraries and after-school programs, because they believe in something bigger than just getting by. Our teachers are doing the hard work every day, not just teaching math or reading, but helping kids bounce back after setbacks, solve problems, become the kind of people that you'd want leading this town in the future, running the town's businesses in the future, building this town in the future. And they're doing it in a world where student needs are higher, their expectations are higher, costs are higher, and everything is higher except apparently the willingness to fund what really matters. The Board of Ed's budget's not bloated, it wasn't reckless, it was responsible, transparent, and necessary. I get it. When it comes to managing our finances, there's no such thing as a free pass. But there's a truth. Cutting education and library staff to save money today will cost us more tomorrow. This budget is an investment in the future. It's about making sure students graduate with the skills they need so they can contribute to the thriving economy right here in town. It's about maintaining our property values, attracting families, and building a town that's sustainable, not just this year, but in the long run. So let's not fool ourselves into thinking we can shortchange education and culture without paying the price. The price is even higher taxes down the road, a weaker workforce, and ultimately a town that's not growing but shrinking. We can't cut our way to greatness. We can't shortchange kids and act surprised when they don't have what they need to succeed. That's not fiscally responsible. That's just passing the buck. We owe it to our citizens, our current ones and the ones that might be deciding whether or not they want to live here and build their lives here, to create a town where people just don't move but stay in. because it has great schools, because it has a vibrant cultural community, because it feels like home, and because honestly, the Fritter line is really never too long. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Hi. Oh, I thought this would be much taller because I'm short, but I'm good. I'm Erin Cole, 60 Rourke Avenue. I'm going to sound a little redundant, but I actually did write this prior to the meeting. I've only lived here for 7.5 years, and compared to most of the folks in this room, I may have, well, just moved in yesterday. But since I've lived here, I hear a lot about us doing more with less, and that was mentioned this evening. And I was saddened that this would transcend to our library and the Barnes Museum as well, because I'm not in agreement with that. We should be able to have nice things and not have our employees get burnt out in the process. A majority of voters in our town voted for the construction of a new library, not just a structure or a building, but a library with programming, with books, with resources. Restoring the positions that have been discussed this evening are imperative. The Barnes Museum is a gem, much in part to Christina Volpe, and the expectation of one person to maintain the interior of the property, put together all the programming and events, which only showcase the Barnes Museum and our town as a whole, is unsustainable. Doing the job of few people, sure, sometimes you have to do that, pick up the slack. We all have jobs. You gotta finish a project, you have to burn the midnight oil. But let's face it, it's not sustainable, and people don't wanna work in those kinds of environments. And just another thing that brought up tonight about state monies, regardless of how you feel about them and us obtaining them, the $5 million that was secured from the state saved our library from being too small for the population it serves. I hope we're utilizing every resource in our state that is available to us in order to help town initiatives. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. One moment.
Take your time.
My name is Tevin Jourdain. I live at 161 Oakland Road in Southington. I know many of the people here tonight, and I'm a frequent visitor to both the Barnes and the library, sometimes intentionally and other times unintentionally. I find it sad that some, not all, on this council and in our government, who rarely visit these incredible community spaces, feel comfortable, metaphorically, cutting them off at the knees. Now more than ever, we need to care and to nurture the history and education offered by these esteemed institutions. History matters, and without it, we would be nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tevin.
Good evening. Jeff Rogers, 36 Long Bottom Road. I am the vice president of Rogers Orchards here in Southington. We grow apples, peaches, and pears on over 255 acres. I'm proud to say that it's been a family business since 1809, only 30 years after the founding of Southington. For the history lovers in here, that's the year that Abraham Lincoln was born. James Madison is the 4th president of the United States. We are, today's equivalent would be 30 years ago from 1995, from 1779 to 1809. But before returning to Southington, I worked as a K-12 teacher, and both special and general education, early on here in Plainville at the Wheeler Clinic Northwest Village School. And for that reason, the topic of history is very dear to me, as is the challenge of inspiring children to understand its importance. That's not always an easy task, but my hope tonight is that inspiring all of you will be a little easier. Since returning to the farm, I launched a new business, Longview Cider House. And I've been engaged with a number of statewide and national trade initiatives, trade groups. I'm the chairman of the Connecticut Apple Marketing Board, one of the founding members of the newly formed Connecticut Cider Association, And in these roles, I've been given the opportunity to engage often with the Connecticut Office of Tourism, and what I hear time and again in those conversations is that one of our state's greatest strengths is our pride in our history. As our previous guest or previous speaker just said, history matters. And local history, the stories of individual towns, families, and institutions, these matter. These are what connect most deeply with people. It's what gives this town, this place, a soul. It's through the work of the Barnes Museum that I personally learned more about the history of Southington, about the families who built it, and about its roots that nourish not just our farm, but our entire community. Southington was founded in 1779, as I struggled through earlier, in the heart of the American Revolution. But of course, the history of Southington doesn't simply begin in 1779 from nothing. We can indeed look back further to 1722 and the beginnings of the First Congregational Church, when a little band of South farmers were tired of traveling to Farmington each week. Our town sent soldiers to fight in the Revolutionary War. We were part of the early industrial boom in the 19th century, producing tools, hardware, and innovations that helped build the young nation. And how do I know this? It's thanks in part to Christina Volpe, the Barnes Museum, Nadia, in conversations with the generous staff there, their willingness to share these stories, not just in person, casually, but also at my business, at my cider house, to members of the public for History and Pints. And how many other institutions, and not just in this town, but anywhere in the state, can point to publications like this, specifically focused on this town's history? Historical research that gives meaning to the names like Woodruff, Bradley, Lewis, Flanders, Sloper, and on and on. The kind of outreach the staff of the Barnes Museum, and I want to emphasize it's the staff at these institutions doing the outreach, not the institution with itself. It's thanks to their outreach that makes the history of Southington tangible and strengthens our sense of identity. The Barnes Museum is not just a building. It is a living memory of much of our town's history, preserving the photographs, the letters, the artifacts, and the stories that define us. We cannot afford to lose the people that tell our town's story. Once history is lost, it is extraordinarily difficult, often impossible, to get it back, and that's a point I'd like to revisit shortly. As a farmer, I know firsthand that every year brings uncertainty. Good years, hard years, bumper crops, and lean harvests. But through it all, farmers never lose sight of their two most valuable assets, their land and their people. Without them, there is little hope for a meaningful future. The same is true for our community. Our history and the people who work tirelessly to preserve it are not optional. They are essential. And if you spare me the apple tree analogy, the staff members of the museum are like the roots that nourish the institution and by extension our town. If we weaken them, we weaken ourselves. That's why the Barnes Museum matters. That's why preserving it is an investment in Southington's future, not just its past. I urge you to reconsider these budget cuts and to continue supporting this vital institution for the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Colleen Kovach. I live at 90 Prospect Street. I'm here tonight to ask you to please not cut the education budget. As an educator in a neighboring town, I know firsthand how critical smaller classes and adequate staffing are to student success. I am so happy that my daughters who attend Oshana have such small class sizes and have thrived with so much support from the amazing teachers and support staff. I feel incredibly fortunate that they have had such dedicated teachers in their lives that have taken the time to get to know them and know so much about them. Additionally, I'm asking you not to cut the library budget as well, as I feel like that goes hand in hand with the education budget. My son attends the Y Early Learning Center and adores the monthly library visits from Miss Molly. He is so excited to have her come and sing and share stories and help create a love of books for these young children. All of my children love visiting the library weekly. They look forward to their weekly visits to get new books, complete the scavenger hunts around the children's area of the library, and to check out all the amazing resources that the library has to offer. Please do not cut the education budget, which is already very bare bones, and we just need to really invest in our future, and additionally, the library budget. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Colleen. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Harry Liu. I live at 15 Foley Drive in town. I've been a Southington resident since 1963. I moved here with my parents when I was 9 years old. I'm a product of Southington schools, all the way from elementary to Southington High, where I graduated in 1972. After a brief time away, I came back to town when my dad passed away in 1979. And I've been a Southington homeowner and taxpayer ever since. That's a lot of tax revenue. And I'm proud to pay it, by the way. For decades, then, the Southington Public Library has been an essential part of my life. It's where I went to do all my school projects through elementary, junior high, and my high school years. It's where I went as a young business professional to learn about my industry, read the various publications and research prospects for my business. Of course, over the years, I've used the library extensively to borrow books, consume movies and music, read magazines, all things I could not afford to do in that quantity on my own nickel. Now, as a recent retiree, I have more time, so I've been taking more advantage of the library, particularly the new facility. I've joined a couple of book clubs and have engaged with the members of those groups, and we've just been talking about our love and passion for books. So it's been extremely gratifying. Given the many ways I've personally benefited from the library over the past 60 years, imagine my dismay when I learned that the town was considering cutting the library's budget by 10%. Obviously, this move will hurt me and thousands of people like me. It will reduce our ability to benefit from the library's services and, as a result, lower the quality of our lives. For this region, I urge the town council to consider modifying the budget as we've discussed tonight, and ideally to restore the budget even further. Moreover, I'd like to urge the council to view the library as not just a cost center, but an economic engine. National studies suggest that every dollar spent on a public library generates a $4 to $6 multiplier in terms of additional economic activity. So this is an investment in our town, the economy of our town, and certainly the people of our town. Finally, now that our national economy seems to be poised on the brink, as it were, I believe that the library should be there for the citizens of this town if and when things become more precarious. And that means having the full resources available, the full staff available to help them weather tough economic times. Hopefully that won't be the case, but if it is, it will be helpful to have a library that's intact and ready to serve the people of our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu.
Hello, my name is Hilda H.D. Cabral. I live at 104 Beechwood Drive, Southington. I am on the Friends of the Barnes Museum Committee, and I have volunteered for over 9 years. I would like to thank the town council and the community for attending the meeting tonight and giving up this beautiful evening to be here. I would first like to ask, and this is a little bit redundant because some other people have brought this up, the rest of my, what I have to say. I first would like to ask the question, why no one it was to my understanding, that was alerted to discuss the budget cut on the part-time outreach coordinator at the museum. It is my opinion that it is very disheartening. Before eliminating a position or any position, it should be discussed and understand the whole picture and how the reductions would affect the department and the community. I understand that we are in very unpredictable times and no one wants higher taxes and the uncertainty of the federal and state funding cuts and grants being eliminated. I believe more than ever that we need to be transparent with the community and the taxpayers about making decisions without the public's knowledge and discussion. I would also like to point out, as a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution and chapter historian, I believe it is crucial that we preserve our Southington town history. Julia Arnold Barnes started the first chapter of the DAR in Southington. The Barnes family was a big part of the Southington's history. My DAR chapter had its 130th anniversary at the museum, and many of our teas are sold out and have a wait list. We also had a recent event, was Wicked, and our part-time person, Nadia, did a fabulous job. We have also children's events, Halloween trunk or treat, the evening with Santa. We have wedding showers, micro weddings, etc. We have offered many programs at the Barnes Museum, have brought many people into our town from other communities in Connecticut, out of state, and people outside the USA, because I have friends came from Costa Rica. Also, with the launch of the new book, which everybody's brought tonight, History Pies, be a great deal of attention, have brought a great deal of attention. So if the cut to this position, it'll be impossible to provide all these programs to the community and beyond. The Barnes Museum is one of the few historical homes that are all intact with their artifacts from the Barnes family from the very beginning. In closing, I strongly believe that we have many creative and talented folks in our town, that this issue should be discussed and perhaps find other solutions before just eliminating position behind closed doors without the published knowledge. And also a side note, Social Security was mentioned tonight. Yeah, there's been an increase, but you know what? My prescriptions have gone up too. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilda. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Laura Shaw. My address is 36 Maplewood Road. I am the historian at the First Congregational Church. We are celebrating our 300th anniversary this year. As I looked through church documents, the name Barnes was everywhere. I went to the Barnes Museum. Christina and Nadia were so supportive, looked things up for me, took me places. I went on all their tours, these seminary tours everywhere, and learn something new every single day about our town. If you haven't gone to the museum, you should go. It's our history. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Brenda Wooding, 165 Meriden Avenue. I have been a volunteer at the Barnes for more than 40 years. Roped in by my husband, and loved every minute of it. And I'm just going to ask a few questions, and you already know the one answer to every single question. Where can you find a house that has been lived in for 3 generations for over 130 years that is almost completely intact? Where can you find a house where 90% or more of the artifacts are original to the family? Where can you find a house where a goblet collection of over 1,200 pieces rivals the collections in Steuben Corning and Winterthur, Virginia? Where can you find a house that is a repository of the Civil War letters home from Captain Upson, who was killed during the Civil War? His granddaughter was the last lady of the house, Lila Barnes. Where can you find his dress sword hanging over the mantelpiece in the library? Where can you find, although it died just a couple of weeks ago, an 80-year-old refrigerator that we were still using? If you're lucky enough to go to the attic, you can look at the beams and you can see the rough-hewn tree trunks from 1836, the little finer carved wood from a few years later, and the final restoration and renovation in the Victorian era, in the 1870s and 80s. I have volunteered, as I said, for over 40 years, and I can tell you that every single time I do a tour, I see something I haven't seen before. This is our town's treasure, and every single one of our citizens should have the opportunity to explore our treasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Wooding, thank you for all of the work that you do, your volunteer work, and Phil as well. I mean, you're amazing people.
I'm Jane Willen. I live at 99 Church Street, Plantsville, and I'm the pastor of the Plantsville Congregational Church. And last Wednesday, almost 100 people gathered at our church in the evening because Nadia and Christina came with their wonderful intern, and they did an amazing presentation just bringing to life the church, its architecture, its people, how it began. It was just unreal to sit there and have history brought to life like that. And it really changed how I look at the church. Now I stand in the pulpit, I feel much more important than I did before. And it brought together the community. And so I work with church budgets. I know what it's like. But whatever you do, don't cut the Barnes Museum or the library. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm Joyce Kogut, 30 Hickory Hill, Southington. As far as the library goes, I just want to say that in the past few years, we've had quite a turnover in the leadership of the library, and that concerns me very much. So I know we have a new head of the library. I have not met her, but what I'm asking you is, we have a brand new building. Yet again, we have a new leader, and I hope that we don't cut the rug from under her by not giving the staffing that she needs. And I'm hoping, it sounds like you've come to a compromise, and as long as the new head of the library is happy with that I am. But I'm very concerned that we keep changing leadership at the library. You know what that does when you get a new boss at work? Do you talk about work all day, or you talk about the new boss? And so I think there's been a lot of turmoil at the library, and I hope that we can come to a compromise, make the new leader happy, and then go forward, because it really is such an important part of the town. And I won't get into the Board of Ed budget. I was the chairman of the board for many years. I haven't been to a meeting in 20 years, but I had to come for the library.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
I know you're ready to wrap it up. Mary Baker, 50 Burning Tree Drive in Southington. And just want to say I am so proud to be sitting in this room with all these residents who have expressed so much so well. And Joyce did serve the town for so many years on the Board of Ed chair. So the library and the Barnes Museum. So the proposal before you was not of light, right? I mean, we're trying to explain through the board to the director what possibly can restore some semblance of order. So let's be clear, the board does not go through the budget like the fire and police commissions do. It's all the department head who's been here only 3 months. So she's pretty much handed this budget, it's gone through the town manager, and now the Board of Finance. And I understand, John Larry, I understand that board's role. Nobody wants increased taxes. We'd all like to have less money being paid in taxes. However, we're talking services that cannot be replicated, right? And I don't know how sustainable that's gonna be with this new building and the programming. And you're asking a lot. If we've suggested to you for a $120,000 cut to restore 55% of it, that's not much. And so that I don't think is going to be sustainable either. Again, I'm the first to want to spend less, but this is really hitting hard at two vital services in the Barnes and the library. And just want to say I love Southington. I love Milldale. We love Christina Volpe. You have to go, if you haven't, to Kinsman and listen to Christina speak. You have to go to the Barnes Museum. We are so very lucky to have people that volunteer in this town here, and the staff that we have, and our new director, Chrissy Michon, we love. And we want to keep her here, like Joy said. So thanks for listening, and good luck with the problem that's at hand for you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Susan Zabahansky, 28 Working Street. I'm going to have a very unpopular opinion here tonight, I'm sure, because as you know, I'm here every budget season for the last at least 6 years, 7 years. I've lived in town pretty much my whole life, except when I couldn't afford to live here. And we're all talking about the youth and how important things are to the youth and how important our education is to our youth, except we abandon our youth when it comes to the cost of living in Southington. I had to move out of Southington when I graduated Southington High School. I couldn't afford to live here. I'm fortunate enough to be able to rent here now with my daughter. As you guys all know, I'm a single mom, only income earner in my home. And I'm here to speak on behalf of all those people who aren't here tonight advocating for a library or a Barnes Museum. I am appreciative of every time you guys scrutinize the budget, especially the Board of Finance and this body. And I'm appreciative every time when you are diligent in representing everyone and not just a certain body of people when it comes to the finances of this town. Because it's important that we all be able to afford to live here and come and stay here and keeping our seniors here when they're here. We've heard discussions about seniors who we can't provide lunch for. People like myself who struggle to pay electric bills. I'm sure everybody in here does. And when we talk about a mill rate increase, and I've heard it, well, it's only, $20 more or $30 more. Well, everything has become $20 more, $30 more, to the point where it's thousands of dollars more over the last 6 years since I've been speaking on this budget. So I appreciate the diligence that you guys do when you scrutinize the budget and look for ways to cut, because we're not talking about being able to go to a library or Barnes Museum. We're talking about people being able to stay in their homes. And as you guys know, I do a lot of volunteerism in this town, at least 10 hours a week for a town body. And I think volunteerism is important. And so hopefully all these people who are so excited to save will think of a way to produce revenue to keep those things running, which is what I've done for my passion in the town, to keep it running well and to not be a burden on the taxpayer. So I really appreciate everything you guys do to look at this budget every year. I know it's a tough process, it's a balancing act, but we really need to start thinking about people who can't afford their homes in Southington and who are losing their homes. And as you know, the service, I see the result of people losing their homes in the volunteerism that I do in the town. And I'm sure Missy sees it, at the Calendar House, we're seeing it, the more people needing to just be fed. So I appreciate the diligence and thank you guys for scrutinizing the budget as best you can.
And thank you, Sue, for your work at the Animal Control Facility. Please, come on up. Good evening.
Counselors, thank you very much for your patience tonight. I know it's been a long evening. My name is Sharon Kennedy. I live at 1 Deepwood Drive in Southington. I had not expected to actually speak tonight. We have so many other speakers that have gotten up here and just talked about the library. But I feel now, after hearing everything that I've been listening to, I think that I have to say something. My mother, Barbara Kennedy, was on the Southington Board of Library Directors for 27 years. She actually was on the building committee for the library that you just tore down. She spent a lot of years fighting and fighting and fighting to get a new library, to keep budgets at a level that the library could function. She was on a lot of boards and in a lot of clubs and on a lot of organizations in Southington, but the library board, and she loved serving on all of them, and she loved being with those people. But the library board was her passion. It was different. I used to hear her when she would come home from meetings at night, and when things would happen, she really took it to heart, okay? I have now been a user of the library that was torn down, and I have now been a user of the library our nice new library that has now been built. And I am noticing myself personally that the library usership has gone up tremendously. I'm seeing people, tons of people in there now that I never saw before in the other library. I'm seeing a lot of families bringing kids in now, and the kids, they can't get in that door fast enough when they come into the library. I'm seeing people coming from all ages, not only the little kids, but people coming with walkers, canes, and everything in between, all right? I myself have just gotten, I guess you could say, rejuvenated now. Using the new library, I've started to expose myself to a lot of things that I never was able to do before. I'm very excited when I have a day when I know I can go there. I have to also agree with the things that people have mentioned about Christina Volpe, because I am also now on the board of the Southington Historical Society. So there are a lot of things that we do in correlation with each other. I've heard an awful lot about Christina, and it's like she's on fire right now, really. She's really putting Southington on the map. I think that we are supposed to be called, so far as I know, unless our motto has changed, we are supposed to be the city of progress, so far as I know. I can't imagine, I was in disbelief when I saw that we were building this nice new big building, and that I saw on the presentation that we are not only building this nice big building, but we are taking people out of the building. My personal experience with the staff at the library has been that these people work with their feet. They don't sit at the desk. Every time I have needed anything in that library, it is never, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, it's not something that they're sitting at their desk looking up on a computer. They have to get up, they have to come over and help me, and they have to do this with all the other people that are in the area where I work at the library. So we are not talking about, when you're talking about cutting people on there, it makes it sound like it's an easy thing. You are asking people that are already up on their feet most of the time in that library, working and helping people, to then have to get up and be running around even more with less staff. And again, with this being the city of progress, that is not progress as far as what I can see. To me, and the other thing that stood out to me as well was that I saw the figures on there where it said, I think, unless I'm wrong, I believe it said we had over 1,400 employees in the town of Southington. And it looks to me like, from what I saw, the only people that got basically, I guess, singled out, you could say, were the library and the Barnes Museum. All right, I'm not sure exactly why we did that. It seems ridiculous to me, and I just can't believe that we're doing that. This is just, to me, it's a travesty. It quite honestly is. I am a person that has supported the capital funding for the library. When the funding first started, I was approached before the library even went to the referendum. And I was asked, as many of the people that are here in the room right now, I'm sure, were our supporters, as we have seen with the hands that went up and the people that have spoken, that are supporters of the library as well. I am very disappointed over the fact that we have so many people that made this commitment and stepped up when the library needed the funding and raised so much money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to show their support for the library. And now the support that we have been shown is, let's cut people out. I'm asking respectfully to the counselors to please take another look at that, to look at what's happening here. And again, as I just said to you, these people that work in that library work with their feet. They don't work sitting down. And I think what you are asking them to do is well over and above and beyond what should be expected of them. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy, and thank you for all the support that you've given and your family's given over the years. Okay, anybody else for the budget public hearing? One last time? Okay, we will wrap the public hearing up now. We're going to take a 5-minute or so recess to give everybody a chance to have a bio break. There is no action or further discussion on the budget, at least from the town council's perspective, tonight. So if you feel like staying, please stay for the rest of the business meeting. But if you don't, just know that there is no further discussion on the budget tonight. That'll be taken up at the first meeting in May. So thank you all for coming out. We appreciate your perspectives. We'll close the public hearing. 5-minute recess. Meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo.
Here?
William Dietzick.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Tony Morrison.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Jennifer Klock. Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, if we can all please stand for the prayer and the flag salute.
Heavenly Father, tonight we pray for direction and courage. We need your help to define our path and courage to walk it. We ask your continued blessing upon Southington and her people. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you can remain standing, if you can, for 1 minute, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. April 5th, we lost a Southington resident. Nicholas Lettieri was a police officer in Torrington who we lost at the beginning of this month to his battle with pancreatic cancer. And so I'd like to take a moment as Nicholas leaves behind his wife and a son, moment of silence for Nicholas and the service that he has given. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're looking for a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes of the Town Council regular meeting, April 14th,
Make a motion to approve.
2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So under Section 4, the reports and special committees, item B, number 2, it was discussing the roads, and, you know, the meeting minutes state, Mr. Perry adds that Todd Road and Russell Road are being looked at because they may need a full reconstruct. The new list is available on the town website. I think it's important to also, you know, mention that Councilman Del Santos, you know, reaffirmed that there is a plan in play for that.
Do you have any objection? I mean, these aren't verbatim meeting minutes. These are only summary meeting minutes. They're not intended to capture every quote that's out there.
I did say it.
So
I mean, I don't
you have any
mind
issue
if
with
you
that?
want to add it, but it's in the record. It's just not in the minutes.
So, I mean, the
Well,
video is
I-
captured.
Well, and during public communication, I'm going to go a little bit deeper as far as the meeting minutes. I remember, you know, when I got involved in politics, they were very verbatim. Like they were.
Yeah, they were changed some time ago, yeah. We weren't doing videos and recording videos like we are now. When videos came on board, and now we have an actual video of everything that's said, the way it's said, you know, the previous town manager started to change in the previous council, so it's kind of been a change from paper and written to more of a digital. It's intended to be it's intended to be a summary, so that if somebody's interested in a topic, they could see kind of the general idea of what it is, and they can watch the video to get more details on it. I don't have any issue. I mean, do you have an issue adding? No. So why don't you make a very short, just restate it for the record, Jack, if you can, very short, maybe one sentence. Mr. Del Santo said what?
I believe it was, and I didn't write it down verbatim, but that there was a plan for Russell Road and
Okay.
Todd Road.
Maybe what we should do is ask, I don't know if it's the clerk, if you would help us with this, maybe to watch the video and get the specific.
Yeah, the secretary will do that.
And then maybe what we could do is we should hold off on these meeting minutes until, unless we need them for some reason.
Well, you can vote on everything other than that if you'd like. It's entirely up to the council, but you could.
I'd like to vote on the revised meeting minutes. I don't want 3 sets if that's possible.
Yeah, so we could table this then and wait until the next meeting. There's
Motion
nothing,
to table
there's,
minutes.
Second.
okay. Just want to make sure there wasn't anything urgent. There's no discussion. All in favor on the table?
Aye.
Aye, all right. So we're motioning to table the meeting minutes for section 2, and we'll take that up at the next meeting. And in the meantime, we'll look to hear from what those quotes are. Item 3, councilperson communications. Jen.
Just one item. So I just want to promote that the LEAF CSA
is open for membership, so please sign up for your weekly CSA. There's actually a variety of CSAs, if you didn't know, that Mark Ramsey provides. So visit www.leafct.com for more information.
I saw today the dude's making guitars.
Yeah, he does.
Someone asked about guitars, and he said, "Come to the Leaf. I have a couple you can have."
Visit the Leaf.
Yeah,
He's,
that's great.
What do they call people? He's so well-rounded.
Okay, anybody else? Val?
Just one, I just wanted to let people know the Family Fun Day, that's usually at the Southington Drive-In. I know that that's a big family event. So that is this Saturday. The rain date is May 10th. It's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And there's different places that they need to, tickets are in advance. So there's some different places, the Little Red Store in Plantsville, Lewis Farms, Southside Meat Market in Bristol, and Pat's Ice Cream in Southington. That's where people can get tickets.
Wonderful. Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Chris?
Two quick items. First, there was a Southington High School partial roof replacement building committee meeting on Friday. Would you like me to add that to this agenda or hold off to the next meeting? It's brief. It's up to you.
Is
We can do
it
next
anything
month.
urgent? Let's wait
No.
till the next meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's keep going.
Yep, that's fine, just because it's so late. The other thing, just because of the time sensitivity of it, I attended the latest workshop, the facilities workshop for the Board of Education on Thursday evening, talking about the plan for the elementary facilities. Ultimately, they're talking about a referendum, obviously. We know that when the plan is finalized, it's going to go to the residents for a referendum. I'm wondering, and a couple people have reached out to me, just concerned about the time frame of a referendum. For something that huge, to not have it at a normal election cycle, like November, because they're talking about May 2026. So I don't know if there's, any way, I'm looking at you through the town manager, that you can work with the superintendent, just something that big. It's just, again, people have reached out just concerned that to have a special referendum for something like that. Not as many people come out and vote and get to voice their.
I mean, that's a Board of Education decision, right? I mean, the elected Board of Ed.
I'm not talking about the plan, I'm looking at the timing of when the referendum.
I understand that, Chris, but I think the elected Board of Ed is going to make a recommendation on what they want, right? I mean, they have to come to us and say, we recommend this. And they either want it in November, or they want it in next November, or something in between. Until they come with a recommendation, I mean, are you saying you want to influence what the Board of Ed is going to decide? I mean, we don't want to.
I'm saying I have a little bit of concern that for such a major decision to be an off-year, off-cycle referendum. That's what I'm saying.
Completely understood.
Yeah.
However, I would
And again, it's preliminary right now. I don't know. That's why I'm saying the meeting was just Thursday. It's fresh. Want to bring it up here.
I think if they make a recommendation to this council will debate that topic. That's my personal opinion. I mean, if you want to ask the superintendent what his thoughts are on it, I mean.
I spoke with him last week about the issue.
Yeah.
He can't speak for the board. He just has a sense that the board believes that this coming year may be premature.
This November?
This November. But that's not official. That's just the sense that he was getting from his board.
So maybe it's next November. And if it's something in between, Chris, there's plenty of time to discuss it, I mean. And maybe even the next council decides it. The next Board of Ed, the next council, so.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So quickly, I meant to hand this in earlier. It's a letter from a resident that couldn't make it this evening on the public hearing, and they asked for that to be included in the meeting minutes. So to kind of go off of, the meeting minutes that I mentioned.
Jack, I just want to, I'm not sure that we can take this. We have a public hearing that's scheduled for this. We'll look into this. I'll ask the town manager to look into this. The public hearing is scheduled for an in-person public hearing. We've all received written communications that we've all read through them, but I don't know that we can take this and submit it for the record as part of the public hearing because the person wasn't here.
Well, can we include it in part of my council person's communications? that a constituent reached out, they couldn't make it, and wanted that included in the meeting minutes? I'm just asking. It was a constituent that asked.
I mean, it's up to you. There's a lot of people that ask for these to get put into the record. We just simply can't do it, Jack. I mean, I would say, you know, a number of the emails that came through said, I can't make the meeting, I'd like this for the record. The public hearing is a public hearing at 7 PM, unfortunately. I don't know the legality of whether these can be submitted into the record. So what I'll do is I'll suggest that we look into it.
Well, if
you
it
wanna
can't,
submit-
if it can't, then I'll read it into the record during my time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just to check, I think reading it would probably be the easiest way to just get it in the record.
There you go. I don't want to violate any FOIA or any policy rules or anything like that, so if you want to use your time for that, please. Thank you.
Dear Town Council members, I'm writing as a proud Southington resident and mother of 4 young children, 3, 9, 9, and 13, to express my deep concern about the proposed 2025-2026 town budget, which includes significant cuts to staffing at the Southington Public Library and the Barnes Museum. Our family absolutely loves the library. It's a place where my children and I go to learn, to be inspired, and to connect with our community. Whether we're attending story time, checking out books, or simply exploring the library is one of the most meaningful and enriching places in our lives. The same goes for the Barnes Museum. It's a local treasure that helps make history come alive for all ages. The proposed 10.4% reduction in the library staff budget and the 32.6% cut at the museum will directly limit program offerings, reduce the availability of public service desk, and make it harder for both institutions to meet the community's needs. That translates to a 12% reduction in staff hours at the library and 36% at the museum. Cuts that will be felt deeply by families like mine who rely on these spaces. Just when we got this beautiful library and all these great activities happening. Libraries and museums are not luxuries. They are essential parts of our thriving education and connected community. I urge you to reconsider these cuts and find a way to preserve full staffing levels so that these vital institutions can continue to serve Southington the way they were meant to. Thank you for your service and your attention to this important issue. Sincerely, Jessica Springer Cap from 7 Old Mill Road, Plantsville. I don't know if the town clerk wants this as well. I know at previous meetings, when I read stuff, they wanted it just for verbatim.
Normally, Jack, the reason I'm saying this is that normally for the public hearing, somebody's here, they make a statement, as you mentioned. Items that go into the record are usually pertaining to our regular meeting agenda. We don't have on our regular meeting agenda this topic. So my only concern is we can't have a free-for-all with putting things into the meeting minutes. It's no disrespect to the person who wrote it. It's just, you know, I want to follow policy.
I just was offering it because in the past, when I've read things as far as statements, you know, the town clerk's office took it so that the meeting minutes were reflective. So moving on, town meeting minutes, as far as, you know, subcommittees that report to the council, you know, a lot of them are just, you know, recaps that are missing a lot. I look at the meeting minutes, you know, and it's nearly impossible to go back, you know, a month, 2-3 weeks. Sometimes the meetings don't meet that often, that you're looking at meeting minutes that you may have attended and there may be things that were missed out. So I know we've, you know, increased, you know, some spending for the technology side of our budget, but, you know, or projected budget or proposed. My ask is to try finding a way to utilize technology to, again, if we can't do it in a video fashion, then a recording fashion, so that, like you stated, if the meeting minutes are a summary, there's still a document, you know, outlining everything that may have been said in the intent. Because what happens is over time, people go back and they look at meeting minutes, right? You know, from times, you know, and the intent may have been one thing or another thing. Then you debate it, I guess. But I just think that would help, you know, with some of our transparency from these other boards and commissions, that residents can't make some of these meetings, especially when they're happening at 4 p.m. and they're still working, getting the kids from daycare and so forth. So that's my ask to the town manager. And then another issue that was brought up to me by, you know, a constituent here in town, as well as we've seen yesterday in the news, street takeovers. The town of Ansonia, their police department pretty much got like barricaded in, vehicles got damaged. their problem. So I think it's important that, maybe we try to be proactive on this and help try, giving our police department the tools, because we've seen through our emails from the town manager that there's been some incidents where these meetups have happened. And the issue when they happen is, hypothetically, it's a big parking lot, the police show up. Somebody could tell the police, hey, we spoke to the manager, they said we could be here. It makes it a very gray area for the police to be able to do their jobs, but it's also very unsafe when you have 100+ cars coming into a community with no police escort, no organization, no point of contact. So I would love to see if maybe the ordinance committee can look into this and see what other towns have kind of done to try to, make it more safe. It's also not fair to our town resources that we're, allocating the police officers to go kind of corral cars or direct them back to the highway to let them out. I just think that, trying to be a little bit more proactive than reactive on this, just like when we do a parade in town. You have to go get a permit, the police kind of get involved, and it's kind of, looked at in a whole approach. If there's a meetup, that's an organization, I think it just needs to be some sort of fashion as far as being controlled so that it doesn't get out of hand.
On the street takeover topic, there's some legislation in the past year that gives police departments some more latitude for finding and securing bad actors and the tools that they have. Maybe we can just ask the town manager if you can touch base with the police chief. This is really a police chief issue. I think we should ask the police chief what his recommendation is, and maybe, I don't know if it's a public works issue, and ask at the public works if the chief feels that
We could certainly
some
address
additional ordinances might be worthy, but I think starting with the chief safety officer, we got to get his opinion on this.
We've got history with the street takeovers, and I remember the police, they're prepared. for
And
it.
I know the police chief, because I agree with you. I've talked with the police chief about this a few times in the past. They're ready for it, and I know they just don't, it's not always prudent when it comes to safety to just tell everybody what your plans are or what resources you have. So I think it would be good to maybe start with just a discussion with the chief and just see what he says.
Yeah,
And then
so-
if you think that an ordinance is needed, we can, or if he feels an ordinance is needed, let's put something together.
Yeah, so to, I guess, maybe build off of it a little bit, a constituent in town has been affected, with parking, littering, and so forth on their property. So they're trying to, reach out with their concern, but also in the, seeing what happened in Ansonia, I just figured that maybe we could kind of look at every, thing as far as the property owners as well as the safety in our police department. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else? Good. Anybody? Mr. Vice Chair?
This weekend coming up on May 3rd, there's a shred at the Southington Arc down in Plantsville from 9 to 12. It's for donations. And as Val mentioned, on May 4th, Sunday, at Slopers is a family fun day to mark the 70th anniversary of the Arc. There's a lot of free things there. There's going to be Valentine the Clown, a DJ, games, and there will be vendor trucks there. So we really encourage people with families or anybody to show up on Sunday at Slopers. I wanted to say thank you to Officer Doug David and the SPD. They invited me to Watertown on Saturday to go see the Battle of the Badges. And what that is it's a powerlifting competition. It's a statewide competition held once a year, and the money raised goes to a fallen officer, who this year would be Aaron Pelletier. There's more than 25 teams. They're 3-person teams. Southington had 5 teams. They had the fire department, I think, had 2. The SPD had 3. And SPD placed 3rd out of the 25 teams. And it was really interesting. And I do want to say, I was impressed by the commitment that they make. Not only do they do their work and their training and everything else, but every Sunday, from now until next year, they practice weightlifting as a team. I wanted to report that I still see, and I've had complaints about Connecticut Transit buses stopping at random locations like Queen Street. I did go to the PD to make a complaint, and on my way, I washed my car at the Southington Auto Wash, and I observed 8 cars go past the stopped school bus, people screaming and yelling. So while I was there, I also complained, or I made a comment to the PD that we need to have some kind of educational program, because not only did the cars pass at that stop, it went to the next stop where the new coffee shop's going, and a bunch of other cars passed it as well at that place. So, you know, and they don't slow down, they just go right by at full speed. So they need to understand that that's the rules. Also, I've been riding on the rail trail quite a bit, and I wanted to thank the Public Works Department and Park Department. Their efforts are really showing on the trail. There's a lot of mulching on the trees. There's a bridge repair over off of Summer Street, really nice. But I also wanted to say that using the trail now as a bicyclist, I want people to remember that there's two-way traffic on the trail, that you can't have your dog on a 40-foot leash that's crossing the whole trail, and that people on bikes are gonna come by you. So I know I startled some people. I wasn't going that fast, but they don't pay attention. So, you know, don't walk across the whole trail. Remember people are coming, and basically just use trail etiquette. That's it. Got it all.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Tony?
Yeah, just one comment from what Councillor Morelli said about the bus. It's on the agenda for the Transportation Committee next week. We've had complaints. I spoke to the DOT, and
Just speak up, please.
and we'll discuss it at that meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Anybody else for Council Maddock? Nope. Hearing none, I will just add one last thing. May 1st, this Thursday, the first Thursday in May, is National Day of Prayer. And every year on the National Day of Prayer, there is a prayer activity on the town green. The interfaith members of various churches will assemble there and offer some prayers and songs and just a time to be together. It's usually 30 to 45 minutes or so, so if you can make it, this Thursday, May 1st, the first Thursday in May.
What time?
It's usually right at noon. Yep, 12 noon. Okay, let's move on to report of special committees. Mr. Palmieri, Apple Harvest Committee.
I know I wasn't at the last meeting, so thank you for holding off. We had our meeting on Wednesday, April 9th. Not a lot went on there. We had discussion about some proposals that are out now, including our busing. We're going to award that hopefully in May, and fireworks as well. We did have on for action approval of the beverage RFP, the big Coke and Pepsi, but we had to table that because there were some questions remaining for the financial contributions. So other than that, we're in pretty good shape. With our budget, we did keep into account, as the council knows, with the police contract going up, we did make sure we accounted for the 3.25% increase in budgeting for the police as well. So that's pretty much all that happened at that last meeting.
Thank you. Any questions regarding Apple Harvest? Okay, hearing none. I just want to remind council members that we should not be using electronic devices on the dais for communication purposes, text messages or whatever it is, so please try to refrain from that. Item B, Mr. Morrison, sewer.
Oh, yeah, we had a Zoom meeting to get prepared for this, and there were 2 votes taken. As an emergency meeting because we didn't have a quorum a couple of weeks before. First was we bought FOG management software. I mentioned it's only $3,000. It's not a big deal, but it's an annual software subscription for the grease traps in town to manage those. The big thing though is the phosphorus removal magnetite feeder project, which will be on the agenda tonight for a vote. And I won't go into detail because the town manager will say I'm stealing his thunder.
Take it.
No, go ahead. We went through it last time, so, all right, and that's it.
Thank you. Any questions regarding sewer? No? Are we all set?
I'm set. Oh, yeah, that was it.
I'm just checking to make sure we're all set before we move on. Item C, seed, Mr. Dietzick.
Yeah, we had our first seed committee meeting since December of 2023. It was an organizational meeting. We elected new chair, vice chair. Just a brief, I mean, I'll tell people what seed stands for. If the public doesn't know. The Southington Enterprise Zone and Economic Development Committee. It basically gives an update on a lot of the properties and projects going on in town in the enterprise zone and the economic development areas. Some of the, just a brief overview. Quantum Biopower is proposing a zone change and a site plan for new organics receiving facility. Tilcon's requesting a renewal of its earth excavation up Welch Road. Greenway Commons should be breaking ground soon. BJ's is proposing a car wash, and the hotels on West and West Main Street should be starting, along with John Weissel Crossing. And Crystal Bees and the Step Saver are for sale.
Any question on seed? That's a great update. Thank you, Bill. Right back at you. Item D, ordinance.
Yeah, another meeting, we were not able to get a quorum. We did have Val, Tony, and myself, and we really got to, Matt Romano, the zoning enforcement officer, kind of gave us some more information, which we were missing from the last meeting on the blight. We're hoping to have another special meeting, and then we'll be able to send to this council both a blight ordinance and a traffic ordinance. Val, Tony, I don't know if you guys want anything.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Any other questions on the ordinance committee? Okay, hearing none. Self-insurance, Tony?
Yeah, we had some meeting on the April 23rd. We had a heavy claims month for March of $541,000 over the budgeted amount for March. So the $1 million we had to the good, based on our budget, is now about 450 to 500K. 3 months of the year are obviously left. These are usually large claim months, but that's allowed for in our monthly budgets. So our projections are we will end the year fine. Secondly, we had a presentation on the Connecticut Partnership Plan 2.0 that's already been given to the Board of Finance. There's a health plan available for state employees that can now be offered to municipalities and boards of education. The plan is used by the Southington Water Department, by the way. We didn't have a quorum, so we need to have a bigger discussion next month on this capability. And obviously, we're looking at it, is it something we should look into or stay with our self-insurance approach?
Any questions for self-insurance? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to item 5, Town Manager's Report and Communications. A, phosphorus removal, magnetite feeder project bid recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Councilman Morrison stated, the Sewer Committee unanimously sent a recommendation for the phosphorus removal magnetite feed project. 5 bids were posted on March 26th. That was done on Planet Bids. They were opened April 2nd, and the bids range in the amount of $672,000, the high to the low of $510,000 and $510,900. They were all reviewed by our engineering firm, Ty and Bond, and there's a recommendation memo from Mr. Grappone along with Ty and Bond's backup recommendation to him that the town council award the bid to Kovacs Construction Corporation for the amount of $510,900. That includes a 5% construction contingency.
That's without the contingency, right?
Yeah, we include
536, 445?
536, 445, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and it's
Kovacs Construction
Kovacs
Corporation.
Construction. So, under old business, we'll be looking for somebody to make a motion on that.
Motion to approve.
No, under old business.
Oh, sorry.
I know, we all want to get out of here. Okay, any questions on that?
We have to go through that as well? Oh, God.
Okay. Item B, Plantsville construction update.
Yes, so the trolley tracks were moved Thursday. Now there's about 6 or 7 days left of full depth reconstruction. After that, the light poles will be going in, and then they're gonna work on the punch list items. There was a hiccup today. There was a payloader that was doing some work, doing some full depth reconstruction work. There was a brand new RV that was driving by. I don't have all the details because the police say one thing, the driver says another thing, the construction company says another thing. But at the end of the day, the RV and the payloader collided. No injuries, just some damage to a brand new RV. I've authorized an additional traffic officer for the next 6 to 7 days until they get it done. we don't think that the traffic situation, that we do believe there's adequate police traffic protection there, but we just wanted to add one more, just because of the close call. I don't want to run into any problems, and I want to keep the project moving as fast as possible. We believe that should be done by the end of next week at the latest. Then punch list items.
Was this a third-party contractor with the
It
payloader?
is- It was Paramount Construction, employee and equipment.
And everybody's okay?
Everyone's okay. Yep, just it's just scratch.
And can you give us, what's the timing, Alex? Everybody wants to know when the road's gonna be open.
The road should be open in a couple of weeks, 6 to 7 days of full depth reconstruction. Then they're going to put down the new layers, roll it, pave it. 2 to 3 weeks, we should have the road rocking and rolling. Then the light poles will be installed. Then all the punch list items such as the polymer sand pavers will be pulled up, redone. There's a couple of heaving areas by lines then that need to be reworked. So all of that's gonna be done before we close the project out. And we're about 1 month out for the project to be closed out fully.
Okay.
On time. And then kind of coinciding with that is the update to the Pocket Park, which, as I've spoke about this several times, it went to the Parks and Rec Department once. We go back and forth with the CTDOT because they do have a right-of-way in that corner, and we're looking for some permissions from them to change some stuff to go in the right-of-way. We don't think we're going to get them, but the park design should be done by the end of May, so long as the CTDOT will bless what we're doing, and then we'll go out to bid within 2 weeks. That'll be done this construction season at the absolute latest. And that construction season is through November. We expect to be done before the end of the construction season.
Any questions on the Pocket Park?
That concludes my report.
Okay, move on to item 6, Town Attorney's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing to report to the council this evening.
Excellent. Any questions for the town attorney on his topic?
I have 3 questions,
Okay.
4 parts each.
Item 7, Public Communications. Would anybody like to come up and speak at the podium? Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Susan Zabahansky, 28 Working Street. I just wanted to thank all the town council members who came to the open house that we had at the dog pound for the Friends of Southington Animal Control. We're hoping to come do a presentation for those of you who missed it, but I did want to kind of update you guys a little bit. We have fully funded our second phase of our outdoor enclosure project, and that's supposed to be started on May 13th. And that's to put artificial turf in our 2, well, we actually have now 3 big play areas, but we're going to put artificial turf in 2 of them. So thank you guys for coming and supporting that. It was a great success, and we had good communications about how I think you had mentioned this at your last meeting, Paul. I saw it online, but I couldn't come in person. But I wanted to thank you guys for supporting the project and being there, and the community obviously is the biggest, the biggest supporter of us. So we wanted to thank everyone from the community who has continued to support our efforts there. We're happy to report that we only have 2 dogs there right now, and I adopted one that's been there for 5 years, who's causing the town quite a bit of stress. And I walk around the trail, by the way, and it's just nice for bikes to at least say, on your left, by the way. She's held in pretty tight because she can be a little feisty. So, but thank you guys for all your support there, and hopefully we can get on the agenda to do a presentation for the town, because we will have a phase 3 of that outdoor project that we'd like to fund.
Alex, if we can just make a note to put that on the agenda for the next meeting, a short 5-minute
Absolutely.
presentation. 10 minutes. 7 and a
John
half.
Leary 10-minute or Sue Zabahansky 10-minute?
Okay,
25.
thanks. All right. Anybody else from the public who would like to speak? Nope, hearing none, we'll close public communications and move on to old business. Item 8. A, action on phosphorus removal magnetite feeder project bid recommendation.
I'm ready. Motion to approve.
We're looking for a motion.
I'll second.
The motion to approve should be for Kovacs Construction in the amount of $536,445, which includes the 5% contingency. Will you amend your motion, Tony?
Oh, sorry. Motion to approve the phosphorus removal magnetite feeder project as to be done by Kovacs Construction in the amount of $536,445. That includes a bid of $510,900 with a 5% construction contingency.
I'll amend my second.
Thanks, everybody. It's a contract. We got to get it right.
All right, no, fair enough.
Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. Would you call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Del Santo.
Yes.
DiPaolo.
Yes.
Dietzick.
Yes.
Morelli.
Yes.
Morrison.
Yes.
Palmieri.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Clock.
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Item B, action on Conservation Commission ordinance.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Del Santo. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No opposition? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Item 9, new business. A, tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Dietzick. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. We're looking for a motion to move into executive session, barring the public and press, including the town attorney and town manager and our representative on the
Toby
sale.
Brinberg.
Toby Brinberg from representing us on the 22 Main Street real estate matter.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
from Val and a second from Mr. Del Santo. All in favor?
Mr. Chair?
Nope,
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, discussion, I will
Any
not be-
discussion?
I will not be attending executive session for a potential conflict of
Jack
interest.
is staying out of the discussion. So Jack Perry will not be in the executive session. It'll be 8 members of the council. Thanks for letting us know, Jack. Motion passed. All in favor on that is 8-0-1. I'm sorry.
He can vote to go, he will go in, but he's recusing himself.
You're okay with that, Jack?
What?
You're going to vote to go in, but you're not going to be here, right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
motion's 9-0.
Yep.
All right, we're going into executive session.